the second day of the week, day number 21 of 28 in this month. Are you ready for this terrific Tuesday? Well, I am, and I'm ready to serve you everything you need on the AM show this morning. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. In case you've never caught me, you're welcome aboard. Now, shortly, we'll be serving you the news, bringing you the latest from Ghana. And right after that, guess who's joining us for breakfast in terms of the news review? Kweku Paintil. He is a lawyer, and he'll be joining us for that conversation. But then we get into our big stories, and today we start with an analysis of issues raised at the vetting of ministers designate just yesterday. We know that Member of Parliament for Adansi Asokwa is unhappy about the rate at which Ghana imports some of the most basic goods. KG Hammond says the trend is worrying and has the propensity to further derail local production by indigents. Other appointees were also vetted. We get into the details of that today on the show. Everything you need to know. But on the second leg, we're going to host a man who was press secretary to President Kufuor between the years 2001 and 2006. He's a former general secretary of the governing New Patriotic Party, and he's now a flag bearer hopeful of the same party. Can you guess whom we're going to be interacting with? Well, your guess probably is as good as mine. Engineer Kwabena Ejapong is our guest later on the show. He joins us to tell us what he has in store for the MPP and for Ghana should he become president. We'll also be telling you about World Evangelism and Mission 2023, which comes off in Cape Coast from this Friday. We'll bring you details when the organizers join us later on the AM show. But as always, the show it has you in focus, basically. So all we want you to do in the course of the show, let us know what your thoughts are about what we're doing, whether we're serving the needs that you require by way of news, current affairs, tidbits, information. Just let us know. Call us at the tail end, but in the course of the show, the hashtag is AM show. We'd love to hear from you. On that note, the news is up next, Tuesday. Thank you for staying. In our first story, some motorcycle operators, spare parts dealers, and drivers' unions on Monday met former President John Mahama to declare their support for his candidature in the upcoming flag-bearer elections of the opposition National Democratic Congress. They say Ghana needs a leader who has the track record of development and capable of solving the current economic crisis. They believe Mr. Mahama stands tall and want other candidates to step down and allow him to go unopposed. Samuel Mbura has more in this report.
The unions are of the belief that former President John Mahama is the right person to lead the country in times like this. They say he has the track record, and they don't believe that President Akufo-Addo will be able to do that. They are citing the prices of fuel, which they say they can no longer buy to run their businesses.
I'm beyond this because of the legalization. Former President John Dramani Mahama tell us that in 2020, when we win the election, he will legalize the Okada. Unfortunately, he not free win. But believe everything by God. But we believe in 2024, your mama should be in president. But we are pleading your mama to come out and pick the form, and we are pleading to all the candidates to step down and live for only your mama.
And we come to plead him, and we are in our knees. So we are pleading him to go for the forms. That's why we brought the petition to him and some little to go for the forms.
Well, precisely, he came out and then he, bring it that he want to legalize Okada. So because he want to legalize Okada, it means that he has seen Okada people to be having their own work doing. So when he legalizes Okada, it's going to help the youth. And that is why we have to approach him and ask him that, we have heard that you say you don't want to go again.
We can't buy motor anymore. We can't, patronize our businesses anymore like how it have been. A lot of people depend on this motor riding. It's affecting, we cannot take, right now there's a lot of loans that people are taking just because they have to make an ends meet of it. And at the end of the day, it's difficult to pay those loans.
The group presented a petition to the office of the former president, cataloging their demands. They have also shown some commitment by mobilizing some funds to support his campaign. Receiving the group on behalf of the former president, the former chief of staff, Julius Debra, assured them that the former president will be willing to work with them when he comes into office.
He wanted us to express his appreciation to you for taking the pain to even put yourself together and to put your resources together so that you come in to encourage him to run for office again. And in addition to encouraging him to run, you also making financial contribution towards his campaign. So he wants us to thank you very much for making such a bold move. Other thing that he wanted us to communicate to you is that whether he's going to agree to run or not, he wants you to understand that his philosophy of governance is about listening to the people. It doesn't necessarily matter about your status in society. President Mahama is never going to be listening to, oh, this is a professor, this is a doctor, this is a graduate. No, we are all Ghanaians. And per our traditional adage, we've been made to believe that no single person is a repository of wisdom. Therefore, if you are leading a group of people, you must always be prepared to listen to the views and opinion of the people you are leading. And that alone, we want to assure you that if by God's grace, which of course myself and my colleagues, we're all going to pray and fast possibly, so that the man agrees and listens, to the petition that you brought. Now, if that happens, he wants you to know that he's going to govern in consultation with people such as your good self.
The group has further assured that they will go beyond the mobilization of the funds and also rally some of their colleagues behind for the campaign of the former President John Mahama to be successful. Samuel Mbura reporting for JoyNews.
Let's talk power now, and the Electricity Company of Ghana is set to intensify its anti-power theft campaign in the Volta region to prevent financial loss. The power distributing company aims at engaging in a rigorous exercise to identify and arrest persons who have illegally connected their homes and institutions to the national grid. There's more in this report.
The Electricity Company of Ghana has been experiencing an influx of inferior meters, meter tampering, meter bypass, and people directly connecting to the national grid without using meters in the Volta region. Management explained that this had led to overloading, clients being overcharged, and even put lives and properties at risk. The Volta Regional ECG engineer, Michael Boabin, said his outfit has engaged the security services to weed out miscreants engaging in power theft.
And these things happen because unscrupulous people engage electricians to climb our poles and do that. And what we have done is to also use the security services to ensure that there's discipline within the network so that everybody accounts for the power he or she consumes. And I think my colleague, the Revenue Protection Manager, said it. If we allow people to consume power without paying for it, what it means is that the few of us who are paying for the power will now be paying more. Let me give you an example. If 10 of us are supposed to be paying 100 cedis, it means that everybody will be paying 10 cedis. If you allow the 10 to reduce to 5, it means that everybody will now be paying about 15 cedis. So it means that we should discourage people from illegally using electricity.
He entreated the media to partner with the power distribution company to curb power theft in the region.
Together with our investigators who always will come to you unannounced, and together with our security services, we are warning that if you do it and get away today, tomorrow the law will catch up with you. And a special warning to our colleagues within the industry, especially you, the media. We want you to help us eliminate the incidence of illegal usage of electricity within the region.
The ECG in 2022 installed 102 automatic switches, injected 45 transformers, and upgraded 46 transformers, among other initiatives in the Volta region. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Ho.
Now, the Ghana Institute of Surveyors is asking government to speed up the processing time of information on land. This is one of the Institute's recommendations to prevent land litigation and multiple sales of land. At the 18th Surveyors Week launch on Monday, Senior Vice President of the Ghana Institute of Surveyors, Alhaji Dawood Suleimana Mahama, revealed that land information is needed to facilitate the work of surveyors and investors. There is more in this report put together by Jacqueline and Soma Yabua.
Land litigation is common across Ghana. In many cases, it has led to bloodshed.
I'll give you order. If anybody joke, shot him.
But the Ghana Institute of Surveyors wants to change this narrative.
The basic one that we think as an institution can help very much is if the information flow on issues relating to land can be made very transparent. If you want to do evaluation, you want to cost land, you want to prepare a plan, you need the basic geodetic framework within which to do it. So Ghana Institute of Surveyors is trying to discuss with government, how can we improve upon that.
He also said that digitalization of the information on lands will come in handy to the Lands Commission.
And this information can easily be done because the technology is available. And when you are doing the digitization, it is not going to sit in the outdated offices that the Lands Commission has all over. Apart from Accra and Kumasi, the Lands Commission offices in almost all the regions are very inadequate, crowded, poorly infrastructured, and the rest. So you need to virtually sink a lot of money in as a basic national infrastructure to provide this.
President of Ghana Institute of Surveyors, Rose Margaret Isubonting, also stated that land administration in Ghana has been found to be extremely deficient in its capacity to contribute to the country's GDP.
Tremendously weak in its sector contribution to the gross domestic product. This is critical because revenue from land-related sources in Ghana amounts to just about 0.03% to Ghana's GDP, according to a recent World Bank report.
Ghana currently lacks a comprehensive map foundation to facilitate geo-information distribution, which the Ghana Institute of Surveyors feels causes severe challenges. It believes it's high time the state acted. Jacqueline and Soma Yabua's report for Joy News.
In our next story, an investor in the health sector is advocating the inclusion of dialysis cost on the National Health Insurance Scheme to support kidney patients in dealing with exorbitant costs of treatment. A patient pays at least 4,800 cedis in a month for dialysis, an amount most patients are unable to cover. Chief Executive Officer of the Akwaba Hospital, Reynolds Echampong, says support for patients has become necessary as most of them are unable to continue with treatment. Nana Yaujima has more in this report.
Experts say kidney-related diseases have increased significantly in the past 10 years. Admissions have increased by 3 times, with some patients reporting with end-stage kidney diseases. The government has announced plans to include kidney diseases in children on the NHIS, though this is yet to be implemented. While entreating the government to expedite action, CEO of Akwaba Hospital, Reynolds Echampong, believes a holistic policy is needed.
And if I look at the average income, I'm told it's around 600 Ghana cedis in Ghana per month. That is the average income of a Ghanaian in Ghana. And it's less than that. And a dialysis, the average are charging 500 Ghana cedis. And if your monthly salary is 500, how do you do dialysis? So I will entreat our leaders in government to add dialysis system, if not the 100%, at least a portion where we will start from, so that people can get access, with kidney disease, can get access to dialysis services. And per the information I know, because of the laboratory medicine that we started in 2013, kidney problem is rising in Ghana. And I believe I want to entreat everybody to get a proper education.
In support of quality healthcare delivery, Akuyaba Hospital has been inaugurated to serve the health needs of the Kwadaso municipality. Presently, 85% of health facilities in the municipality are privately owned. Municipal Health Director Grace Billy Kampiti says through effective partnership with the private facilities, a mass health screening exercise is being implemented in the municipality.
We noticed that hypertension is on the increase, diabetes among the populace. And so as a matter of policy, the health sector is beefing up on our screening for NCDs. The Regional Director of Health Service is very passionate about it. And so our activities are centered towards screening, home visits. We have set up wellness clinics in most of our major health facilities.
For JoyNews, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
The Deputy Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Collins Augustine, has charged beneficiaries of the Ghana Productive Safety Net Project, a program designed to contribute to poverty reduction, job creation, and enhancing the socio-economic lives of the less privileged, to make good use of the opportunities provided by the scheme to enable them climb out of the bracket of poverty. The minister made this call when he paid a visit to the Sene East District of the Bono East region to assess the progress of the implementation as well as identify challenges associated with the project. Anna Sabit has more in this report.
Initiated in the year 2018, the Ghana Productive Safety Net project was instituted to provide tailored support to the poorest households to address the demand-sided constraints to accessing services that will strengthen their productivity. Under the project, rural communities undertake labor-intensive public works, including grant support in income-generating activities. Here in the Sene East District, the project is engaging locals to rehabilitate degraded communal lands through cashew tree plantations. Deputy Minister for Local Government and Rural Development Collins Ntim, who visited the area to inspect the progress of work, expressed satisfaction with the collaboration between managers of the project and the beneficiaries.
The coordinator and the team from the ministry, we are here this morning to see, at least inspect for the first hand how the vegetation, the plantation is doing together with the other sub-project. But I'm happy to note that here in Kajiti, what I'm observing is good. It's doing so well. And I'm also happy about the enthusiasm of the assembly, the district chief executive and the agric director. It's not in all places that you go and then you be happy in terms of how the farms are being managed. But here in Kajiti, I'm happy.
He was optimistic that the purpose of the project, which mainly seeks to eradicate poverty, will be achieved by the close of the engagements.
When the beneficiaries, out of their own free will, express that sentiment. So it gives us a hope that we are embarking on a very good venture to benefit the people here.
The minister further disclosed that the second phase of the project is in place and will capture new districts to ensure that more households are engaged to enable them move out of the poverty bracket.
Indeed, they are also going to enjoy the Phase 2 Safety Net Phase 2 program, which involves 100 million United States dollars, and then the Honorable Minister has directed that we bring on board additional districts. So instead of 80 districts this time around, additional 20 districts. We're going to have 800 districts. So we are urging them to look for more land so that we'll be able to expand it and bring on board many people.
Some of the beneficiaries lauded government for the project and asked that the project is gradually helping them climb out of the poverty pit as well as aid them keep their children in school. The women in this area used to struggle a lot, but the timely intervention of this project means they now have some financial support to aid them send their children to school. So for me, this has come to help. The project has been very helpful to us to support our children's education. District Chief Executive for the area, GK Kofi Jima, on his part, emphasized that the project has come to reduce the poverty level of the people across the district.
This project, it has come to help the people of Sene East because our poverty level is very high. So much as they are given this amount of money, that will cushion them to be able to pay fees of their wards, buy groundnut or fish or any other thing to sustain their life. This will improve their livelihood. And then it's also encourage the export that the government wants to do. What it means is that it will reduce the poverty level of our people in Sene East.
Anas Sabit, Joy News, KJG.
Now, leaders on the African continent have been urged to ensure they achieve the Sustainable Development Goals on access to safe water and improved sanitation by 2030, as estimated. This call comes on the back of some setbacks realized by stakeholders in the sector. Journalists from 21 African countries have gathered in the Ivorian capital, Abidjan, to be trained and equipped with the relevant information to advocate speedy implementation of targets for the benefit of citizens. Hannah Odame reports for JoyNews.
Considering the fact that achieving the Sustainable Development Goals are mostly linked to the availability and access to potable water and proper sanitation, some African countries are speeding up their action plans to ensure they meet the set targets. Stakeholders in the sector have therefore begun comparing notes through peer reviews in a bid to improve on their strategies. This action has roped in journalists to serve as mouthpiece of their fast-paced implementation agenda. According to a sanitation coordinator at AFWA, Dr. Mbaye Mbegware, leaders on the continent must initiate alternatives to their plans, which are not yielding the needed results as expected.
It is important for us to advocate in order to get this mind shift, to allow to these decision makers to know there is an alternative to this collective sanitation that is very expensive in terms of investment, in terms of operation, and to know that it is important to do sanitation differently. Business as usual is not working at all in sanitation. We need to think out of the box to reinvent some new solution, and we cannot do so without a mind shift.
A sanitation management trainer, Valentino Yao, highlighted the need for the proper disposal of waste, which he says has not been taken seriously, though it has a potential to generate revenue for a country as well.
The best way to dispose of the waste, mainly the solid waste, is to transform the waste into a product, a new product, as a fertilizer, agriculture fertilizer. This will allow people to reduce field contamination with chemical fertilizer, and will improve also the field to produce more.
Joey Imbabazi of the New Times publications in Rwanda shared with Joy News the importance of the conference for her advocacy.
Now journalists can pick from there information. At least when you have the statistics, you know where to start from. Yes, so now we have the statistics, we know where to improve, we know which region is mostly facing with what, and they've told us about areas or countries that do not use the toilets even when they have them. So all this information we've learned, I believe, is going to make a difference, because now we are going to be knowing exactly what to do that we didn't know.
Organizers are hopeful. The fearful estimate by the WHO and UNICEF that by the year 2030, billions of people around the world will not have access to safe water, sanitation and hygiene services will not materialize if all of these packed action plans are implemented. For JoyNews, I am Hannah Odame.
And on that note, we cap off the news, but stay with us. We'll be joined by lawyer Paintsel shortly as we get into the papers. Welcome back on the AM show. We get into the papers now, and I'm joined by Mapitso Sibidi. We call her Maps around here. Good morning.
Good morning, Benjamin. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I love your green.
Thank you.
Forest green.
Yes, please.
Is that your ID I am seeing?
It is my ID.
We'll talk about this, the photograph on the ID.
The beautiful photograph that everybody sees. KLP yesterday saw it.
I've seen some of your pictures from back then, and
yeah.
Jeez.
It's life. People grow.
Same with me. You should see some of my old photos.
I don't want to see. Hey. Yeah.
God.
But like KOP was looking at my ID card and was like, hey, wow, small girl. Yeah.
Small girl. You're no longer a small girl.
I'm not.
Definitely.
Because I've grown, and that's what people do. That's what happens. So like it surprises me when like, oh, you've changed. Oh, was it supposed to stay the same? Like.
Definitely not.
Use your head.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I pity those who would go down that road with you, because I know how you would deal with them.
Oh no, I'm actually a nice person. Sometimes I was just like, I mean, what did you expect? For me to stay the same? But anyways, how are you?
Growth is a natural part of life.
Growth
if you're not growing,
yeah,
there's a problem.
There's a problem, yeah, in all aspects of life.
In all aspects.
So growing your career, relationships, everything, you know, just grow. And if you feel like spirituality, oh, definitely. And if you feel like you're not growing where you are, then it's probably time to, reevaluate some things, or maybe just move on to other things.
Anyway, before we get into the papers, and welcome aboard lawyer Paintsel as well. Between yesterday and today, any story that has caught your attention that maybe you'd like to, something that stuck with you?
Which is also on the front page of Daily Graphic.
Right.
Our air quality, across air quality, has reached some positive levels. It's been hectic, hey? Because what's this thing called? Hamatan is supposed to be like over by like mid-January, end of January latest. But like it's like end of February. What's the date? End of February. And we're still seeing some really terrible weather. A lot of people have gotten sick because of this weather.
My mom is a victim.
You see, people who have asthma are really, really suffering. So that's why they're asking us to put on our masks and restrict outdoor events. We'll get into that.
But how did we get here? I actually took time. When I saw the first report, it was from one of these websites. So I had to go. I've seen other credible, websites, media portals, post it as well. And I got a bit concerned because there's been a trajectory. Sometime in, was it 2020 or 2021, actually? 2021. We placed 30th. Which was like, so the lower you are, the better your air quality. So you will see that some of those Scandinavian countries are in the top 10.
Yeah.
The Norways, the Swedens, the Finlands, the New Zealands. The higher you go, the closer you are to number one means your air quality is
terrible.
Very bad.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, we were, in 2021, our air quality was so bad in some areas, it was worse than in some of the areas across the world that are heavily polluted. And that was just 2021. So when I saw this, I just started thinking, wait, progressively,
what happened?
We've been getting there, and it appears we've done nothing about it. I mean, globally, we know that in Rio de Janeiro, especially Sao Paulo in Brazil, if you go to Delhi, in New Delhi, in India, and all of that, Beijing in China. But for us to find ourselves here, especially when we're not industrialized, we are not, pumping all these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, I find it rather worrying. And maybe just to add, it's even worse for me because already our land and water bodies are getting heavily polluted by galamsey. If our air is also polluted, Charlie, where are we going?
What are we going to do? Well, let's see how it goes. But yesterday when Dr. Henry Kokofi was speaking to Samakojo Brace on News Desk, he said another factor is the rickety cars on the roads. We need to put a halt to those cars on the roads because it's a major factor. So he was even making a joke that I'm sure Samakojo Brace's grandfather's car is still around or on the road, but we need to put a stop to that. Have you seen some of the Trotskys? They are in terrible conditions and they are just emitting some terrible air. So there's a lot of things happening. Felicity was also saying that, okay, so with Felicity's, it makes sense because it's just passing through. But Felicity, who works at the GMET, was saying that so the dust from the Sahel regions has come down to West Africa, which is something that at least will just pass by. And I think it's not that worrying because it's like nature just doing what nature does.
That is not so worrying.
Yeah.
I mean, we all grew up learning about the monsoon winds and
Yes.
the southeast and the northwest and whatever. But the more permanent, problem, because if, like I said, progressively, if our air quality has been diminishing, and mind you, we've been losing a lot of forest cover over the years. In the last few years, we've lost a lot of our forest cover, which is why I think we had the Green Ghana initiative as well. Not too many dynamics on that we can follow, but I think it's becoming problematic. And if this turns out to be true, this air quality assessment, and it's coming from a very credible institution, it then means that even after this period is gone, people are going to live with complications, health complications that may arise out of this. Well, let's welcome aboard Lawyer Paintel. He joins us for this conversation. Lawyer Paintel, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining the conversation. Before we get into the papers, we've been talking about air quality in the country. I don't know whether you've seen that report. Any quick reactions to it before Mapito takes us to the Daily Graphic? Hello?
Yeah, I saw it, and I'm surprised that we are living with such a situation in Ghana and why possibly we've reached the proportions that are being reported. And that's the surprising part because we've got the Environmental Protection Agency, which is the legislative body that's been set by statute and is supposed to regulate these matters and ensure that Ghanaians can avoid some of these things that are now being reported to us. So that's my initial reaction. Actually, it's quite surprising and it's very shocking. And the health implications are incalculable and we are living in dangerous times. That is what it means. Because this is self-inflicted. It doesn't come from anywhere. It comes from Ghana here and we have to do something about it. That is what I want my initial reaction to be.
All right. Okay, let's dive into the Daily Graphic. I mean, that's their big story, air pollution alert. So put on masks and restrict outdoor events. This reminds me of 2020 when we're told to, if you don't have anything doing outside, stay at home, put on your mask. So if you can, please put on your mask. And if you also can, please restrict some outdoor events.
And I think even more importantly, if you know you're susceptible to, respiratory issues, you might as well around this time want to do that.
Definitely. All right, on page 13, Pangtown Hospital owes 2.8 million Ghana cedis to 25 suppliers. We also have Katie Harman supports cuts in imports. We also have Institute of Surveyors advocates for digital map for country. But I want to go into that story, the Pangtown Hospital story. Has become indebted to its suppliers that provide essential goods such as food and chemicals for the daily running of the health facility to the tune of 2.8 million Ghana cedis. It has compelled some of the hospital's most reliable and loyal suppliers to cease their services since last year, while others are threatening to institute legal action to force the hospital to settle its indebtedness. Although, per the law, mental services are to be free, but unfortunately, patrons still pay at facility levels due to some operational challenges. And we also have on page 16 and 17 Institute of Surveyors advocates for a digital map for the country. They said that the last time a modern map base was created for the country was in 1974 and has since become old and outdated due to new developments. And according to the institution, the lack of digital map data was not only affecting geo-information delivery but also compelling some public agencies to acquire and process their own data. Said the institution was, the situation, I beg your pardon, was frustrating development actors and creating challenges with accuracy and compatibility. And the last story I'm going to take is the DDEP, now panacea for economic recovery. That's according to Dr. Kwabena Dufo, the former finance minister. He said that the domestic debt exchange program is not a panacea for fixing the broken economy. According to him, debt treatment was only an aspect of the fiscal toolbox needed to such an ailing economy and could therefore not be used to bring about economic recovery. And I quote, "You cannot use the debt exchange program to bring about economic recovery if you do not link it up to the drastic drop in inflation, bank lending rates and the size of the government." Lawyer Pencil, do you have any reactions to these three stories?
Which one in particular are we talking about?
So the Pantan Hospital owing 2.8 million Ghana cedis to 25 suppliers, and we know how mental health is treated in the country. We've done documentaries on how mental health is deteriorating in this country, how people are having a tough time, and now a hospital that is providing some sort of treatment to these issues is owing 2.8 million Ghana cedis to 25 suppliers.
I'm not too sure I'm surprised. I'll be pretending if I say I'm surprised. I mean, almost all government institutions are heavily indebted, left, right, center, to almost every supplier of services to them. And how and why we allow these things to happen under our watch and our eyes is one of the several issues we have in this Ghana. It's the issues about governance, the issues about management, the issues about who is in charge of what and whether we are doing it right. I remember in the history of these matters in our hospitals, it is when Dr. Frimpong Boateng became the CEO of Polebo Hospital that for the first time we saw an administration that was working really and truly hard to make the hospital self-sustainable. And there was so much noise and everything. This is one of the incidents that I very clearly recall because some exchanges took place, and then he was being accused of running the hospital as it was his family property. And instead of shying away from that allegation, he came back and said that that is how government institutions must be run. People must run it like they are private property. People must run it as if they own it. Because we never saw any businessman who ran his business in a way as to destroy it or in a way as to make it non-functional. But let me tell you, the attitude, I'm very sorry, some of my remarks are going to be very blunt. The attitude of Ghanaians generally when they run state institutions is that it's nobody's business. That is the picture that you get everywhere. I've been involved in several of these matters when I have looked with awe at how people have run government machineries, government institutions with such a lackadaisical, nonchalant attitude that is frightening. And I've ever had cause, I'm a lawyer, and you must know, I have ever had cause sometimes bringing actions against some institutions. I have maintained an argument that the directive principles of state policy under the 1992 Constitution requires that public officers must run the state and state institutions in a manner as to ensure that the state gets the best benefit out of it. And I always form the view that public officers who run institutions recklessly or negligently or without recourse to the proper ways of doing things ought to be mulcted in their pockets of the losses that occur to some of these institutions. Because you see, it is not only let me put it bluntly, I mean, it's not only stealing, it's not only corruption in the sense of people, what do you call it, stealing money and so forth, which is part of the problem of corruption. Negligence alone can cost the state institutions so much money, recklessness. I mean, people doing things without recourse to proper ways of doing it. And for me, please, I'm not making a commentary in particular about the Panther situation because we don't have the facts. But I can readily and easily reach certain conclusions based on my observation of the way we do things in Ghana. And I'm telling you that if somebody has to go in, you will notice that some of the problems that they may have is because there are no prudent measures in place. I'm sorry if that's not a true situation on the ground, but I'm prepared to bet that somebody were to go into the facts, you'll find instances where there are no prudent measures in place, and everybody treats the place like it doesn't really part of his business.
Yeah.
And so that is how I want to view the situation. And sometimes it's not just the issues of funding, because everybody knows how the situation in Ghana is. And please, when you go to some of these places, even though services are supposed to be free, we all know and we all make all kinds of control. When you take somebody there, obviously you need to put something down, and whatever they are, it is about management. I will repeat that the issue is about managing whatever scarce resources that we have.
Yeah.
And even assuming for the sake of argument that it is lack of government funding, the people who run these places ought to be frank enough and put in place measures that will require that they'll be able to sustain these places that they find themselves and they are, in charge of. So I can run a running commentary, over this whole matter. We'll never end today. But that is briefly, in my view, part of the bigger part of the issue that we have in Ghana.
Okay.
That is my view.
All right,
and maybe just to top up on what he said, I just think we're not very serious about mental health in this country.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
It's so clear.
Yeah.
When you look at those who roam our streets, they have dignity. They are human beings. We shouldn't be letting them roam. Some of them half naked, others naked.
Yeah.
Just going round. Some of them are a hazard to other people. They shouldn't be in this state. And you look at our mental health facilities from Adabraka to Pantang and all other places, and it is clear that in this country, mental health is not our focus. That's all I wanted to add.
All right, so let me just take one more story. I already mentioned it. That's the DDEP, not a panacea for economic recovery. That's according to the former Minister of Finance, Dr. Kwabena Dufo. And I quote, he says, "You cannot use the debt exchange program to bring about economic recovery if you do not link it up to the drastic drop in inflation, bank lending rates, and the size of government." He says it could have been avoided. The situation could have been avoided, it found itself, if the government had not embarked on the kind of borrowing spree witnessed between 2017 and 2021 from both the international and domestic bond markets. Any quick reactions to this?
Yeah, so I'm not going to pretend to be an economist just because there's all these problems going on. But the point I'll make is that this debt exchange program is just a symptom of the larger problem we have in this country. I mean, you sit and you reflect on the economy, you see all the things around us, even the Pantan Hospital story. It's all part of the bigger picture. And that's the way it is. And therefore, we must not, or I don't also believe that the government is pretending that that's the only issue on hand. But quite naturally, I agree with the sentiments of Dr. Dufour that the attempt to resolve the issue of the debt exchange must not be taken as a central issue for resolution by our finance minister or the economic management team of the government. It is only one of several things. It may be prominent because possibly people who are directly affected in their pockets have come on the street. But the bigger issues of this country, if all of us were affected, if we say we're going to come out on the street, I'm sure that the governance will even come to a halt. So I agree with the sentiments. What it means is that the government has a responsibility to not to highlight the issue of debt exchange as if the resolution of the debt exchange program or the debt exchange issue will resolve all our problems. It cannot be true, and it is not true. And I want to believe that possibly efforts are on the way to look and reflect on the other areas of the economy, which are also in dire straits. So that's my view on that subject.
Sure. Benjamin?
All right, let's quickly get into the Daily Guide newspaper. And two stories I'll highlight, or maybe three of them. You can't arrest Nairi Mamprugu youth cry out. This Boku situation is getting pretty feisty. We all know the dynamics, we know the history to it, but I feel that there's a lot more we have to be doing to stem the tide of same, because especially of the terrorist threat in our sub-region. Let's not open ourselves up. There's also MPP-NDC fight over new ministers, and then Wele intestines import cost $165 million annually. That's according to Kobina Tahiru Hammond, the minister nominee, so to speak, for trade and industry. Let's take a quick look at some of those stories. So, Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin has taken a dig at the opposition NDC, accusing the party of attempting to obstruct government work. It comes after the Minority Leader, Dr. Atufor, acting on the instruction of the party's General Secretary, indicated that the minority MPs would not support a consensus vote at the Appointments Committee level for the nominees of the President. And he says, we are calling for the immediate reduction in the number of ministers from the current 86 to 65, the merger of ministries, for example, information and communication, transport and railways, chieftaincy and tourism, sanitation and local government, the immediate reduction in the number of political appointees at the office of the President, he announced. And you would find some very interesting portfolios at the office of the President. This for La Francophonie and that for, all kinds of positions that have been created. And that was, the exchange in Parliament. Let me also get to page 6. You can't arrest Nairi, Mamprugu youth cry out. And the youth of Mamprugu have vowed to resist any attempt by security agencies to arrest the king of the Mamprugu traditional area, Nabohugu Mahama Abdullahi Shariga II, and the newly enskinned chief of Boku, Wan Alhaj Seidu Abagre. On Sunday, February 19, 2023, an attempt by military personnel to arrest the king of Mamprugu and the newly enskinned Boku chief was resisted by the youth, who blocked the road leading to the Nairi's palace at Nalerigu in the northeast region. The angry youth vandalized the NPP office at Nalerigu, claiming that the ruling government played a role in the issuing of the arrest warrant for the Nairi. You see how that situation is becoming very, very problematic. The final story, very quickly. Trade and Industry Minister Designate Katie Hammond has disclosed that the country loses more than $164 million a year to the importation of animal products such as guts, bladders, and stomachs other than fish. Why is it, he says, that everything you can think about is being imported to this country, which has a terrible effect on our currency? He quizzed and asked, it is about time we took a serious look at this particular issue. It has been decided at that level that we should look at 50 specific areas where it is important to look at the issue of import substitution. The president started talking about it, but it's easier said than done. So 3 issues you can look at in some 2 minutes. The attempt to arrest the Nairi and the chief he's installed, NPP-NDC fight over the number of ministers, and all these imports and what Katie Hammond says. Lawyer Paintsel. Hello?
Ministers. That is what has brought about the larger debate of the size of the government. And I really have my doubt if the two, they fit into the same space. Fair enough. The ministerial approval, of those who have been nominated by the president is provided by the Constitution, and Parliament or its appointment committee is required to look at whether they are fit for those offices that the president has nominated them for. And at the end of the day, recommend to Parliament whether, they pass. In other words, whether they are fit for purpose. And that is one work in itself. There's a larger question of whether the ministers that the president has appointed or the appointment the president has made is not too large enough. That discussion did not start, today. But why they must use the present opportunity to rub it in is a matter of politics. And whichever way it goes, I believe that Ghanaians should be the better for it. That's point number one. The issue of the Nairi, like you said, is a delicate issue. But in fairness to government can also not sit by and watch on to see a potential conflagration development. And therefore, there's a careful balance between maintaining the peace and also allowing things to go the way it is. And I would say that when it comes to these matters, the security apparatus in this country must not be shaken by any group of people in this country. It's a very sensitive issue, but the insensitivity will not be the only reason why the security apparatus must look on for a developing matter to blow out of proportions. And the third issue you raised is which third issue is, there's a third issue. Hello?
Yes, so I spoke about the Nairi issue, which you have touched on, the MPP NDC over new ministers, and the importation of Willie, guts, and other things.
You know, I believe it's an indictment. I'm very sorry. I'm embarrassed that this is coming for a trade minister designate. He's been part of the government, even though he's not a minister. And therefore, the commentary that he passes is something that we need to pass on to the government, because maybe for one reason, maybe because he's mentioned it, let's hope that he knows what to do. Other than that, he can be a part of the government and claim that this situation has been festering for so long and is costing us so much. The real issues in life is not how to identify problems, but how to solve the problems. And I'm only hopeful that once he has mentioned it, we will measure his administration by the decisions that he takes to ensure that possibly a year from now, that situation will either be non-existent or possibly reduced drastically. That's the way I want to comment on that particular comment that the minister designate said.
Okay. So we also have the finder. Foreign trips will not be approved. That is according to Firma Opari Osei, who page chief of staff. So let's go to page 2 and check out that story quickly before we leave. Foreign trips will not be approved. So the Chief of Staff at the Office of the President, Mrs. Firma Osei Opari, has warned heads of all public entities that without the submission of their 2023 foreign travel plans to the office, requests for such travels will not be approved. So the plan must be submitted with relevant documents, and only essential travels will be approved. An invitation is not obligation to attend. And so she also imposed that no foreign travel for board members. We also have Occupy Ghana rejects secret and confidential mark on cabinet's response. So they have asked government to remove the secret and confidential tag it placed on its response to a right to information request that it received from the group to enable Occupy Ghana publish the contents of the response. You can just react to the foreign trips will not be approved story before we let you go.
Yeah, you know, some of these things that they say, it's like the typical issue of bailing the cat. Everybody knows what to do. It's how to do it and who must do it. You know, because these problems have been there for generations and we all talk about it and we go back and then we do the same thing. So this is not something that I really need to express any particular joy or happiness with what she has said. It's about doing it. We dare her to do what she says she will do. Because people get into government space, people with due respect, who never traveled before, and all of a sudden, they are traveling business, they are traveling first class, they are traveling how many times in a month, unnecessary trips, people going for conferences which they are not even fit for. It's, oh man, the figures are there, and it's like it's everything in Ghana is self-inflicted, because we're a country where we know how right to do everything, but somehow we do the very thing we're not supposed to do, and we turn around like children that in a conversation. And that's the way it is. I mean, must a minister come out, even this, I don't even need to say it, just implement it, just go ahead and do it. That's the way it must be. I mean, listen, there's a massive abuse of traveling opportunities across the ministries, across departments. Oh man, please. I mean, sometimes it's very frustrating in talking about some of the problems that we have because we know the right thing to do. You find a minister who wants to attend, possibly, or a director or a board member who wants a board member. What does it got to do with traveling on a department or on a minister? What does it got to do with it? You are not party to anything that is done at the management level. And when you attend those conferences, who does it benefit? And these things are pleasure trips, you know. And of course, we are not even talking about what they call it, the daily bonuses and daily. That is about all. That is about all.
Right.
So please, tell her to do it.
Let's take a look at a few more papers and wrap up the conversation. There's this international story, in fact, a number of them in the Daily Guide that I did not take. I just want to pick out three of them. Mugabe's son arrested after cars trashed a party. You should see that story. North Korea launches more missiles as Kim Jong-un's sister warns of using Pacific as our firing range. The last time they fired missiles, it entered Japan's territorial waters. And third person cured of HIV after stem cell transplant. You know, stem cell transplants have got a few people, at least 2 of them in the past. I read of one recently, and now a third person has been able to do that. Who knows, over time, inch by inch, little by little, we could get there where we are actually able to cure HIV. You know, at a point, there was no cure for syphilis, for example. And it's wiped out lots of populations. But from my end to wrap, graphic business, no dividend for bank shareholders. DDEP erodes profits. You should actually see the cartoon. Pill for individual bondholders. And it no be joke matter.
It no be joke. By force.
Charlie.
Take it.
So if 2020 was tough for banks and their shareholders, then 2022 was tougher. Management and shareholders of the lenders are set to miss out on their bonuses and dividends for last year after the DDEP eroded the bank's profits, making it almost impossible for such payments against the 2022 financial year. That's the story. It also has government to pay coupons on matured domestic bonds and asset declaration laws shielding corrupt public officers. Finally, Economy Times, inflation to begin easing. We've already seen signs of that. Economic activity shrinks sharply. That's in Ghana. And Ghana's long-term credit worthiness downgraded. It's been downgraded further to restricted default, RD, from C. We were at C. Now it's been brought down to RD by the international rating agency, FIT. Now, the issue ratings on local currency bonds issued domestically have also been downgraded to default. That is D from C. And that's the latest there. Is there anything brief that you would like to add, Mr. Painter?
I just I've got this passing commentary on this domestic exchange program, the domestic debt exchange program. My only take on it so far is that it's very regrettable because, see, I believe that it destroyed the confidence that Ghanaians have in the government when it comes to these issues of bonds. And I believe that for a long time, I'm wondering how, these bonds are going to perform on the market. And I'm really having my doubts, even for people like me who never even invested in the area, whether I would ever be attracted. And so for some time to come, there's going to be a lingering issue, not only for this government, but for successive governments, about how they can attract Ghanaians to economic programs like that. And that's the sad thing that I've been reflecting upon. And that's the way I want to end my take on these issues. That's about all.
Thank you so much, Lawyer Painter, for joining the conversation this morning. We wish you the very best of the day.
Thank you. Thank you.
And he joined us for that conversation. Just to wrap with these headlines, the Daily Dispatch, Ghana was on track till COVID and Russia-Ukraine war. That's according to the IMF boss. And gold for oil, we will keenly monitor every step in value chain. That's according to the energy minister.
One interesting one. Japanese team in Ghana to help clean Galamsey polluted rivers.
What?
The Japanese team, this is the Ghanaian Times, Japanese team in Ghana to help clean Galamsey polluted rivers.
Japanese team in Ghana to help what?
Clean
Galamsey
polluted rivers.
Let me speak P. Just say, who be free, I'm an neighbor. What I'm saying to it, so we cannot do anything in this country unless someone from some foreign land comes to teach us. Especially when we know how to do the pollution, but we don't know how to do the cleaning.
Hello?
Yeah?
Please go ahead.
But that's not even the real issue. The real issue is the galamsey is still going on. So how do we clean what we are doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the real issue. Because I have not seen any serious attempt at stemming the tide of this galamsey thing. There was ever a time, I remember maybe 3 or 4 years back, that we were shown pictures or forms of some of these waters that were regaining their natural state. And all of a sudden, everything went asunder. And now we have reverted to the status quo ante, the position that it was before all these things came. We don't have the clean water any longer. And I'm not convinced that the galamsey fight itself has been won. Yes, we may attempt to clean up the waters, but if the source of the pollution itself has not been stopped, it's a funny game. Like pouring water in a basket. That's the way I would describe the picture. Let the Japanese come. They'll come and take their money. They don't do this thing for free anyway. So what it means is that in 2 years, Ghana will have accrued such a huge bill of foreigners who have come here, experts who have come here, in a pretended attempt to clean our waters when the source of the pollution is still there. What are we doing?
Thank you, Lawyer Pato. Very important points you make. Yeah. And we wish you the best of the day. And this is how we cap off the news review, but it's been brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. We're offering free prostate screening and free female fertility screening. Locate us in Accra Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Chronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade, Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, Esiama, Enzima. Reach us on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Time now, Mapitsa, for us to get into
some sports. Muftah Nabila is standing by.
Some team is known to be, we have a game in hand, FC. We'll see how he'll come and tell us, give us more details.
Let's see how it goes. Up next is sports.
Good morning. Welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullah. It's been nearly 4 days since Ghanaians were made to understand that former Black Stars player Christian Achiu died under the rubble following the earthquake in Turkey and Syria, which happened on February 6. His manager, one man, who found him and nurtured his talent and sold him to the world, Hayayate, who is also the owner of Cheetah FC, has described the former footballer as an angel on earth.
Christian was a Christian. The way he does his things, sometimes you don't believe it. I think we need to remember Christian for his generosity, how humble he is, how determined he is. And I think this should inspire footballers. What I'm going to say. I remember on the first day that he had to take the first flight to FC Porto. I was at his airport to see him off. And when he sat on the plane, he actually sent me a text message saying that, Mr. Yate, I really appreciate you. I'm not going to return. I'm going to succeed on these trials. He was left with 10 days for the January window 2010 to be over. And he said he was going to succeed. He was going to make me proud. He was going to make himself proud. He was going to play football to the highest level. And the world will hear the name Christian Achiu Twasa. I think 13 years today. You see, today we have the vice president here. We have big dignitaries around the world sending their condolence messages to Christian Achiu. You have big organizations like FIFA, CAF, the EPL, people around the world, the poorest, the wealthiest, the smallest village are all actually saying good words of Christian Achu. So it tells me that whatever he said to me when he boarded the plane, he have done it, but it saddened my heart that his last flight back to Ghana was the one that I have to come and then receive his body. But I think I'm very proud of him.
Mr. Yate, you knew him more than most. And I'd have to ask, if he were here watching us right now, what would he tell the millions of people who are in tears and crying? What would he say?
He will tell them not to cry. Christians don't like seeing people unhappy. He wants to see everybody happy. He believes he's from a poor background and always want to see people happy. So he will say, don't cry. And I believe that is what we don't need to do, because we are crying. But God Almighty, who brought Christian to us, knows very well that he come and accomplish whatever he wants him to do on earth. And then God needs him more than we. And I believe Christian is happy wherever he is currently. And I pray that Allah Almighty have mercy on his beautiful soul.
Now, let's talk about former Black Satellite head coach, Salah Stete. He's been ill in the last couple of months, calling on the Ghana Football Association and the Ministry of Youth and Sports to pay him money that is due him following Ghana's success in 2009 Under-20 World Cup. Salah Stete led a group of young, talented players to win the tournament, which was staged in Egypt, making Ghana the first ever African nation to lift the Under-20 FIFA World Cup. Well, on Monday, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, on behalf of the President of the country, made a financial donation of 50,000 Ghana cedis cash to support his medical bills. And the Ministry of Youth and Sports announced on their social media handles that their decision to visit Salah Stete was also to check on his health and ensure that whatever was needed to keep him healthy was going to be provided. The Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports, that is Evans Bobier, on your shot right there, he said that he's excited to see the coach in good condition, and he promised government was going to give him the support that he needed. He went on to add that the visit was extremely important, considering the role and contribution the former coach had played in the development of football in Ghana. He also indicated that the delegation will continue to follow up and pay regular visits to the coach, and expressed optimism that his health condition will improve soon. Coach Salah Stete led Ghana Under-20 national team, the Black Satellites, to win the World Cup in Egypt in 2009. And even before that, in 2007, in Togo, where he led the Under-17 team to the Under-17 Africa Youth Championship, Ghana placed second after losing the grand finale to Nigeria. And in 2007, Under-17 World Cup, which was staged in Korea, Ghana made it to the last four of that competition, losing the semi-final to Spain, where Boyan Kekik scored the only goal as Ghana quest to lift the Under-17 World Cup for a third time. It came to a not. Let's move on and talk about Africa Games 2023. And the African Union and Anoka impasse has been resolved. This is according to the Ministry of Youth and Sports. They say that the impasse between the two institutions has made it pretty difficult for government to prepare for the organization of the Games, which was expected to start on April 4 and end on, which was expected to start on August 4 rather, and end on August 12. According to the Sports Ministry, they said that the impasse between the African Union and the Association of National Olympic Committees of Africa and Association of African Sports Confederations was amicably resolved on Sunday, February 19, 2023, at the AU headquarters in Addis Ababa. The resolution of the impasse was facilitated by Ghana's President, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, and His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, a chairperson of the African Union, who sat through the entire resolution process. At the end of it all, the stakeholders smoked a peace pipe and signed a negotiated agreement. The Honorable Minister for Youth and Sports, Mustafa Yusuf, signed on behalf of Ghana, whilst Ambassador for the African Union, Minata Semate Sisuma, which is the AUC Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development, signed for the African Union. Mustafa Biraf, President of ANOCA, signed for ANOCA, whilst Major General Nazer, President of the Association of Sporting Federations in the continent, signed for the AASC. The impasse between these major stakeholders for the past 1.5 years impacted adversely on Ghana's efforts to host and organize the 13th Africa Games, Accra 2023. A new date for hosting the Games will be announced as soon as the impasse, because the impasse affected the timelines. And many would recall that Joy Sports on countless occasions had revealed that Ghana's quest to host the Games in August was no longer going to be possible. And per the information available to Joy Sports, these games are likely to be organized in April 2024. We await the new date that will be announced by ANOCA, Africa Union, and the AASC, as they are the owners of the competition. To the Ghana Premier League now, and Accra Hearts of Oak head coach Slavko Bilic, he says that his team will bounce back following that 2-0 loss against Midiama SC. According to him, his boys did not put up the performance that was expected, but he's very confident that up next, which is against Great Olympics, he's very confident that the team would win.
We didn't run more. We didn't run a lot. The phase, offensive phase. But we have 3-4 shoots on goal. Opponent just one shot from distance. And second half, you see, we must change Salifu. He can't play. First minute, we have opportunity, 1 against 1 with goalkeeper. Young Bayfield, he scored goal. Game's going in another way. Same second, Suraj missed the ball. Same minute, you receive goal. They punish you for chance. And everything changed. Second goal coming, very naive. We just make changes, immediately we receive goal. And when you see, I must congratulate Suadana for 3 points. They have 3 shots on the goal, 2 goals scored.
You're congratulating Adriana Stars for a wonderful performance. Would you say this is your worst performance in this season's league?
Not worst. I don't mean it's worst, because we have a lot of chance. If you account, we have 6-7 chances. You didn't score goals, and they punish you. They punish you. Very naive second goal. First goal also very, very easy. But sometimes when you don't score, mentally team go down. And I think that's happened today.
A little bit of so many inconsistency on your part, on your team. You win today and
look now, you have problem with the Adoub injury. I must change him because he cannot play. Caleb cannot play. Corsa have cards. Now I think Inkom have cards, ESO. Consistency is not easy. But next two games will show can we be champion or no. I think we can. More 60 games, Kevin.
Just before you go, in the next 2 games, you play Accra Great Olympics in a Kamashi derby, and then the big one against Kumasi Asante Kotoko.
It's not important opponent. Sorry, opponent is not important for us.
With this kind of performance,
if we score goal today.
With this kind of performance, you think you are really convinced House of Folk can get the glory by winning the cup?
No. I said I didn't play well first half like we want. Second half, they punish us with chance. We have opportunity. We didn't score, they score. We have better chance. After is very difficult, after 0-2 to play. You make changes to try to make pressure, to create more chance. From that chance, still you didn't receive goal. Score goal. Just we have chance, we didn't score. Opponent use, they have 2 opportunity, maybe 3. For that 3 opportunity, they score 2 goals from 2 shoots. That's it, they win.
Let's go to Europe. UEFA Champions League football returns tonight. Let's take a look at the fixtures. We have Eintracht Frankfurt. They will come up against Napoli. Liverpool versus the defending champions, Real Madrid. On Wednesday, we'll have Inter Milan come up against FC Porto, and RB Leipzig will also play Manchester City. These are the fixtures for the UEFA Champions League, and this is the round of 16th stage of the competition, and this is the first round of matches between these two teams. And play your best and have a chance. And this is our wrap up AM Sports here with me, Muftao Nabila Abdullah. You can head on to my joyonline.com and read some more sports stories. The show continues right after this.
In the 60s, but we knew the industrial condition of the country. Along the line, everything was collapsed. But the MPP government, and particularly current administration, is taking considerable strides, making a lot of effort the direction that you indicated. And you draw attention to the 1D, 1FR program. It is fantastic. It's fundamental. It's good. The policy is to ensure that every single district has got a factory, and that is towards industrialization. As I understand it, there are about about 260 of such industries which so far are at various stages of completion. I think over 100 or so are already operational, about 150 at advanced stage of completion. You ask, how is that, what is the government intending to do, or how does that feed into the point that you make? Yes, government is making conscious effort through these flagship projects that every district takes advantage of the economies of scale with things that it's materials and resources that the particular district is capable of producing and effectively harnessing into the industrial development. Number one of its particular district, and of course into the general national feed. It establishes industries. If it establishes industries, it has this boomerang effect. Introduced me as being the class prefect, the senior prefect. I would expect members to put up their best behavior. I will put up my very best behavior, and then we'll get into that. I have the class prefect in the chair, so I still remain the class prefect, so it should be well behaved. And so it was decided that a commission to be put in place to investigate all these corruption allegations and all of that and all of that. Speaker, from nowhere, a decision was made that a single transaction which went back 12 years, which was the sale of so not entirely the sale, but the transaction in respect of the trade ship, be added to the commission's deliberations. Speaker, I was invited to attend when what we call the Apple Committee, Mr. Speaker, was put in place. I attended. My brother Dabucho was there. My then minister at the time who was involved with this was also there, Kandapa. But I was at the center of it, so it was fair that questions were put at me. Now, Mr. Chairman, I put it to everybody here. When is it that anybody in recorded history heard that a deputy minister of 3 months at post sells a state asset like a ship? 3 months. We went to the ministry, I think about April or so. This thing took place about June, July. 3 months. Cabinet met. What had happened was that the GMPC that I talked about, Mr. Speaker, had been run aground. It's going to be lengthy. I want to explain it so the whole country understands. Mr. Speaker, somehow a decision had been consciously made by the GMPC outfit at the time that they were going to involve in what they call hedging. For all those around who know about the commercial transactions and whatever, Mr. Speaker, hedging is a kind of gamble.
Mr. Chairman, the nominee must realize that he's before a serious committee. You can do whatever you do with us outside the sitting of the committee. When you come before the committee and you're on national television and everybody is viewing, you must take us serious. I'm asking a question. Let me finish asking the question. And if you have an answer, you can give your answer. If you tell the whole country that you've not been paying attention to the papers that have been given to you, it's up to you.
Mr. Chairman,
we are working on your nomination, and you are interjecting and directing everybody.
It's me. I'm supposed to regulate the meeting. So if I'm failing, I'll take responsibility. Please proceed with your question. That's it.
The question I have,
I wanted to repeat what Honorable Ayariga said. At the time of our country, where people are in real difficulty making ends meet, I'm of the view that the nominee is very affable, and we all know. But when you are about to take, at least as the president wished, a position as a trade minister, you need to put up a posture that is more serious than being friendly to us.
And so that was a scene, or some scenes from yesterday's vetting of that minister-designate for Trade and Industry, Kobina Tahiru Hammond. We'll be bringing you the latest on that, as well as sharing what you would like to know about what exactly transpired there. Joining us for the conversation, Alhassan Suini is Member of Parliament, Tamale North. He joins the conversation. We also have Dr. Rashid Dramani, Executive Director, Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. I'll start with you, Alhassan Suini. Gentlemen, by the way, a very good morning. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I was just watching you there beside Mahama Yariga yesterday, and at least for that portion, I could tell there was a lot running through your mind as Mahama Yariga passed those comments about maybe not allowing him to complete his question before interjecting. But for you, in summary, what was the picture like when K.T. Hammond, the Minister-designate for Trade and Industry, showed up to the Parliamentary Appointments Committee or the Vetting Committee?
Well, generally speaking, I think that the Honorable K.T. Hammond took the exercise for granted and did very little preparation before yesterday. And he may have taken it for granted because of his familiar relations with colleagues, and so he thought that, and towards the end, he said he didn't even expect to spend more than 10 minutes before the committee because he is a so-called class prefect. Unfortunately for Honorable K.T. Hammond, the committee was not in a mood to be jocular, like members have been with him, previously. Outside the committee. And I'm sure it was a rude awakening for him, but a little too late for him to be prepared. And so it showed even in the answers that he provided. Mostly he was evasive. He was not very thorough and deep as far as the workings of the ministry that he is going into is concerned. And unfortunately, he as usual, was very emotional about the issue of the drill ship when it came up. I am confident that, but for the intervention of the chairman, when I raised that matter, he would have gone gaga. He would have gotten out of control completely. And that, for me, even before considering the details, was quite disappointing.
Are you saying then that let me ask you this. If you had to score him then on the basis of his performance yesterday, he is a member of parliament. He's been there in the House for quite a long time. He's represented his constituency. And this wouldn't be the first time that he is getting, a role like this. Are you saying that he did not meet the requirements or the expectations? How would you rank him on a scale of 1 to 10?
I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give him 3.5 over 10.
I didn't quite hear that. Did you say 3?
3, yes. And maybe it is as a result of what you just said about him. The fact that he's been in the House for very long, the fact that he has familiar relations with the members of the committee, the fact that he thinks he's been in government before, all perhaps led to his skill preparation that showed in the course of his bed, and it left me very disappointed.
In other words, you're saying K.T. Hammond was complacent?
Yes, you may say so.
And he took the committee for granted?
Absolutely.
Let's take a quick look at some of what he said, though, and its relevance. He talks about the president's drive for import substitution and the fact that we're importing wele, cowhide, we're importing guts and other items that, ordinarily you would think that any country would have some control over. You can import some. But when you're looking at the tune of $165 million annually, then that is quite an issue. Was it valid for him to bring up this point? And were you convinced that he would be able to do something to curb the situation?
So the more important question is the last one, because the question was on import substitution. And his response, even from the onset, was to wonder if we have ever had any, competitive advantage in producing anything in this country. And went on to repeat or lament, like all of us have been lamenting about, our poor state when it comes to producing where we competitively have an advantage over others. So, really, he did not leave me with ideas about how to reverse the trend. He only regurgitated the problem, like we all are aware of, and that didn't come through.
He also said, to quote him, I don't know whether this would suffice as some sort of way of moving forward. In October last year, a committee was put together by the cabinet to specifically deal with these matters. And when I looked at some of the issues raised, I was scandalized. It has been decided at that level that we should look at 50 specific areas where it is important to look at the issue of import substitution. There is a plan, at least.
Well, so he points to a plan that he discovered at the minute. A plan that clearly he doesn't fully appreciate yet, because he was referring to a plan that he came across when he was receiving briefing. And I dare say that if he approached the briefing that he got from the ministry with the same attitude that he approached the committee work with, then I dare say that very little will come out of that plan when he is going to oversee its implementation. That is, if he gets the leave of the House.
Maybe just a brief one on this. Do you think he'll get the nod?
In my view, no. In my view, and I don't speak on behalf of the committee, and I don't speak on behalf of my colleagues on the minority side, but I speak based on the constitutional, issue that I raised when I took my turn to question. For me, like I premised my question, it was about his eligibility. And Article 94 2D especially speaks to the issue that I raised. It talks about the findings of a committee or commission of inquiry against a person that, if not set aside, disqualifies that person from holding certain offices, including being a minister of state. And I then pointed to the Judgment Debt Commission report that clearly has adverse findings against the nominee.
Are you talking of the GMPC drill ship issue?
Absolutely.
But he gave a response to that. He mentioned that he had been in office just for 3 months, that most of this had been done, outside of his purview, outside of his, work, and why should he take the fall for that?
That is not what he told the Judgment Commission when he appeared before it. And the report is there for anybody who has the time to look at. Clearly, he takes credit for everything that happened as far as the transaction between SG and the government of Ghana was concerned, and the sale of the drill ship. Indeed, the commission findings show that at a point, the minister, the attorney general, then who was then the current president, Akakpo, coerced, and I'm using that word because it is used in the commission, the commission's report, coerced the acting managing director of GNPC to give or to sign a letter of attorney for Honorable K.T. Hammond to sell GMPC's asset, the drill ship. And if you look at Article 94.2d,
right,
it talks about abuse, it talks about misuse of public office, and it talks about engaging in acts that
So in simple terms, my apologies for interjecting. In simple terms, you don't think he satisfied your curiosity as far as giving any answers to your question. And just to cap it off for now, basically what you're saying is, when it comes to the vote, you are not going to vote in favor of K.T. Hammond, right?
Yes, and the issue is not about whether K.T. Hammond explained himself or not. And
okay,
I want,
so he's not
your
getting your
viewers
vote.
to get this clear. Yeah, I want your viewers to get it. It's not about whether he explained himself well or not. It's about what the Constitution says. And it's about whether or not there is an adverse finding in a committee or commission's report against him. And as to whether that finding has been set aside or not. One, is there a finding, adverse finding by a commission against the nominee? Yes, there is. Has it been set aside? No, it hasn't been set aside. Is it more than 10 years old? No, it is not more than 10 years old. Is the committee finding, what do you call it, a fact of life?
Okay.
It is left to
right.
Honorable K.T. Hammond to go to court and set that aside. Once it has not been set aside, the Constitution says that he's not qualified.
Suini, Honorable Suini, we're grateful for your time. Al-Hassan Suini is Member of Parliament for Tamale South. He joined us for this conversation. Thank you so much, sir. Let me bring in Dr. Rashid Draman, Executive Director, Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Dr. Draman, what is your assessment of the exercise that took place in Parliament yesterday? And what would be your assessment of the Minister-designate for Trade and Industry, Kobina Tahiru Hammond? Do you think he met the standard yesterday in responding to the committee?
Yeah, Ben, good morning. I told your producer that I had a delegation from Uganda yesterday, Ugandan Parliament. So I was with them all day. I didn't really follow what happened live. I only read excerpts of the proceedings. I watched the version of the nominee for Ministry for Food and Agriculture. But having said that, and having heard what was carried on your platform as well as other platforms, I think we are getting to a point where this whole exercise of vetting ministerial nominees has to be relooked at. Over the years, some of us have called for, first of all, a process that would see this vetting decentralized. What do I mean by that? So, what I mean is so that we have, for instance, Honorable Katie Amon is headed to the Ministry of Trade and Industry. You don't want to have a situation where it's an omnibus committee made up of members who are not really apprised of the happenings in the ministry, vetting this nominee. So that's my first preliminary comment. Second, I think this is a very sacred duty. The fact that you are nominated to go and head a ministry where you are going to be entrusted with resources and power. It's a very serious duty that every member of parliament or every nominee has to take seriously. Walking into the committee saying the class prophet, you guys behave, I believe it's not taking the committee quite seriously. There is the impression that nominees who show up before the committee always perhaps have behind their minds that it's a done deal. So whatever happens at the level of the committee, at the end of the day, politics is going to play out and they are going to get their way. For instance, during the vetting of the minister designate for agriculture, at one point, the banter between he and the minority leader, I was shocked to hear the nominee say, "Oh, I thought you are my friend." I thought that this was a very serious exercise where we are assessing whether people can be trusted to be given power and resources to hold on our behalf. People show up there, they rely on friendship, they rely on familiarity, all those things, mainly because I think over the years we haven't seen any serious objective criteria of assessing these nominees. Because if you ask the committee, Ben, right now, what is the criteria that they use to assess these nominees? At the end of which, for instance, you pose a question to Honorable Suyin on a scale of 1 to 10. I don't think they have any scale. At the end of it, it's all politics. All people show up there, rely on friendship, rely on network, and then they get out of it.
You're basically saying that they get out of this scrape based on party politics. We have the numbers on the committee, or the leadership of the committee is with us, or something of the sort. But from the little you gathered on his responses to the GNPC drill ship's sale back then, and again, what you just made mention of, how maybe jocular his reactions were. "Oh, I thought you were my friend," and all of that. If you had to score him based on what you know, what would be your score?
Well, if I have to score him, perhaps, I'm not a member of the committee. So a member of the committee has given you a score. So maybe if I have to score him, perhaps I would rely on the score that the members of the committee are provided.
So you would rely on the 3 over 10 that Alhassan Suini gave?
Indeed, Alhassan Suini was inside the committee. And you see, Benjamin, the other issue is, if you listen carefully to the line of questioning, you realize that the members of the minority were very, hard-hitting in terms of their line of questioning. The members from the other side, were just providing almost like, questions that were not hard-hitting, very friendly questions to the nominees, almost saying, perhaps the other side sees maybe a lot of challenges related to the nominee, but we don't see any challenges related to the nominee.
Right.
And I think that is not a fair way of looking at it.
I guess it
Ghanaians
goes...
are watching, and I think that any nominee that shows up before the committee members have a responsibility on behalf of all of us to take this exercise very seriously and to ask very, very serious and hard-hitting questions.
Just before you go, in some 10, 15 seconds, what would be your expectations as others come before the committee?
Well, as others come before the committee, I think that perhaps maybe the chairman would have to make this very clear, that this should be taken seriously as a national exercise, as an exercise, particularly at a time when our country is going through very serious difficulties. And then also make sure that yesterday I had my good friend, the majority leader, interjecting to the work of the committee. I am not too sure whether these kinds of things should be allowed. If you are not a member of the committee, yes, you are the leader of the House, I would have thought that perhaps maybe the committee should be left to do its work.
Thank you, Dr. Draman, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning on the AM show, and we wish you the best of the day. Dr. Rashid Draman is Executive Director, Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. He just joined us for this conversation. We also had Al-Hassan Suini, Member of Parliament for Tamale South, joining the conversation. Up next, we're going to be interacting as we kickstart our big stories with someone who was press secretary under former President John Ejekume Kufuor. He's a former general secretary of the NPP, an engineer by profession, and he aspires to lead the NPP into election 2024. Will he get the nod? What's his story? And what's his plan for Ghana? Ladies and gentlemen, right after the break, we'll be giving you Kwabena Ejapong right here on the AM show. Do stay. Welcome back on the AM show, and as you can see, those colors in the background, yes, we have a stalwart from the New Patriotic Party joining us this morning. He is a former press secretary. He performed that role under former President Kufuor. He has been general secretary of the New Patriotic Party. He's a man of many parts. Engineering is one of those parts, and he's played some crucial roles in there. But this time round, he seeks to be flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party and eventually become the CEO of our country. Mr. President, who knows, maybe I could be in the presence of the next president of the land. But we're going to have a conversation with him and find out what exactly makes him feel he is cut out for the cloth of presidency, what plans he has, and who he is, basically. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Engineer Kwabena Ejapong. I'm tempted this morning to call you Ejapong.
You just call me K, it's fine.
Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Ben. I see you are also part of the beard gang.
What should I say? Yes. I think I'm in that category.
I can see a lot of the young people are growing beards.
Maybe we're not coconut heads, like Kwabena Tahir Ahmed would suggest. But it's really good to have you. Let's start with a bit of a background concerning who you are and what you do. What has brought Kwabena Ejapong to this point?
Well, I was born on 6th March.
6th March?
1962.
Wow.
Yes.
Independence Day.
Independence Day.
I'm 3 days ahead of you.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You are?
3rd March.
3rd March, okay.
Yes.
That's interesting. Schooled in Kumasi, Royal International School. Taught my class in Common Entrance. Went to Infancy Prim School. Became the library prefect in 1981. Then Tech, Civil Engineering, BSc. In 1986, started work as a professional working with Ghana Highway Authority. And in those days, they used to teach you a lot of things. Beautiful rotations around the country, whether it's road maintenance, bridge maintenance, survey and design contracts, material quality control. And so I worked on quite a number of projects, the Voradep Road, Hoa Sikuma Junction, Brewania Singh, Kwanta, Pasa, to the Uti River. You know, working on the Anyuan Kwanta, Bekwai, Yamransa Road when I was at Survey and Design. And in 1991, I was part of the team that supervised the reconstruction of the asphaltic concrete overlays at the Kotoka International Airport. And being the only airport, when it is closed for about a week, it's caused a lot of distraction to the airline business. So working around the clock 24 hours, you know, that's some of the experiences. Of course, I moved on to set up a private firm with my colleague. We worked on a big project in Obuasi. It's still there now, Tiny Roland Estate, 150-unit housing project from scratch, delivered on time within budget. We were the project engineers, architects, and managers of that project. Many other projects, even when the GASM head office at the time on the Ring Road caught fire, we did the structural assessment. You know, so I've done quite a bit, but politics took me away from engineering quite early, you know. So
maybe not totally, because I see that even in engineering, you've done quite a lot.
Yeah,
you've led institutions both in Ghana and in West Africa.
That's right. I mean, quite recently, I was the executive director of the Ghana Institution of Engineering, and with that, the West African Federation of Engineering Organizations. And so, it gave me the opportunity to be at various conventions around the world, whether it's in Australia or Costa Rica or Los Angeles, quite recently. And so yes, but something happened in my life, and I'm sure you're aware of that. I don't want to always take us back to 40 years ago, the unfortunate death of my father with his colleagues, and that lit a spark in me. That really has been something that propelled me to do what I'm doing, to restore Ghana back to democracy. And I think I played quite a modest role as a young man, 29 years, you know, being the face and voice of Professor Dubois' campaign in 1992, in those very heady days under the military dictatorship. So you needed to be courageous. I mean, the MPP itself, at the time it was being fashioned, the kinds of principles, the ideals that those of us who decided to sacrifice for this party, you had to be a strong character. How do we prepare to give something back to society, to your party? Those values have disappeared a bit, and that's what animates what I'm doing. I think after 30 years of democracy, Ghana, we can beat our chest and be proud of what we've been able to achieve. As I said, wherever I've traveled to, when my name is mentioned, I'm introduced as representing engineers from Ghana and West Africa. People look at you with a lot of inspiration, because having had successful transitions over the last 30 years, despite all the economic shortcomings that we do face currently, I think it is a much better place than being under a military dictatorship. And so some of us have an onerous responsibility to caution the youth when especially we fall into difficult times and we hear some of them talk about military takeovers. They haven't lived through it. And so I deem it a duty for myself to always caution people, alert people that this is a better place for us, a constitutional democracy where we get the opportunity to elect our leaders every 4 years.
And 29, that reminds me of former President Kufuor himself. That's when he first got into, got a ministerial portfolio, during the Buzia regime. And interestingly, you served under him as well. Your party, the New Patriotic Party, initially, from what we hear, was supposed to be the National Patriotic Party. And through some stroke of whether proclamation or otherwise, it became the New Patriotic Party instead of National Patriotic Party.
Our party chairman, B.J. Darocha, who did the change very quickly. Yes, because he wanted us to be different.
And it has stuck. Just to make this point, so you do what my father did, civil engineer, architect, and he was also at KNUST. Unfortunately, he passed a long time ago as well. So when you mentioned the story about your dad, it just came flooding back with memories. But looking at the birth of your party, the Fourth Republic.
That's right.
And how far you have come within that party. What would you say have been the highlights of your political career? Being the face, so to speak, of the NPP right from the onset, all the way through 1996. Of course, in 1992, 93, you didn't even field parliamentarians.
That's right.
So it was clean sweep for the National Democratic Congress, from the PNDC to the NDC. In 1996, you went ahead, clawed back a number of seats. In 2000, you were able to win the elections, lost out in 2008, came back in 2016. You've not always served, and it's not always been smooth sailing for you within the MPP.
That's correct.
How would you describe this entire period of working for the NPP?
I think I describe my life within three main S's. When I say it's been a life of service, it's been a life of sacrifice, and it's been a life of selflessness. And those are the character traits I believe in. And I do think that my whole political career is anchored on what I call the triple S. It's important that those values that animated politicians at the formation of the MPP, those are the values that I think should be revived. And I do clearly believe it is time for us as a country to create a new dawn of politics in our country. When I say a new dawn, a new thinking, a new dimension, that will let us revive or revisit our understanding of what public service should mean to us as Ghanaians, and party politics in general should mean to us as Ghanaians. Right now, the narrative that is gaining currency is there are many people who feel a lot of politicians get in there to feed fat on the national treasury. I think it's a narrative that should change, and it can only change with a new generational leader who has exhibited that, as you said, as press secretary to the president. I became press secretary.
Are you suggesting that you concur that even now people are feeding fat on the public purse?
All I'm trying to say is that if you look at some of the surveys that have been conducted, the Afrobarometer surveys, the standing of politics and governance and the political architecture in the eyes of Ghanaians has really waned. And we need to do something to inspire the Ghanaian for them to have better or stronger belief in governance. You talk to a lot of the young people, they're very detached from politics. And that's dangerous for our population, which is a reasonably young population.
And for those who are not, they would often tell you that the ideas they share mean that if they got the opportunity, they would be even worse in leadership, because they are learning from the misdeeds of some leaders.
Those are the narratives that we should change as political leaders. And who best to do that than we, those of us who have been in politics? To show by our very experience in politics what we did, because I've been there before, as you said, for close to 6 years as press secretary to the president. I did not amass any wealth. I didn't add to my real estate because I didn't think that was the reason why I was there. And it's important that we inspire the new generation to understand that there is beauty and a sense of fulfillment in working for your country and doing something for the people of our country. That is what drives politicians. The centerpiece of politics has to be the welfare of the Ghanaian, especially the underprivileged. So you asked me about the highlights of my career. I mean, being appointed as press secretary to the president in 2001, especially as in 1998, I was one of the leading lights of then candidate Akufo-Addo, seeking to unseat candidate Kufuor as the presidential candidate of the NPP. In spite of that, Mr. Kufuor, recognizing the long dedicated service that I had given to this tradition and believing in my integrity as someone who is a nationalist, decided to fill me as his press secretary. And I do believe that was the highlight of my service to my country. But to my party, I would say in Tamale in April 14, when I was massively elected as general secretary of our party, you know, although I was lying in my hospital bed in 37 military hospitals, I was able to win that election because the party activists, the party executives, they recognize the dedicated service that I have given to this tradition right as a youngster in those difficult days. Because it's all about sacrifice, it's all about service, and it's all about being tutored by these our elders who we worked with in those early days.
Tell me, there's this other crucial period in your service to the NPP, 2015.
That's correct.
When you were ousted.
I was
Some
ousted.
would even say sacked by your own party.
I think that was a very low point in I think in the party's history. I mean, it all started when there were some shenanigans orchestrated against the party chairman to try and remove him from office. Our constitution.
You speak of Afoko?
Yes, Paul Afoko. And I stood against that. I said I would not concur because, one, the party has rules and regulations. We have a constitution, and the constitution was not followed. When you want to file a petition against a critical officer like a party chairman or a general secretary, it still has to be filed at the party headquarters, at the secretariat of the party. That never happened.
Never.
That never happened. It went straight to the disciplinary committee. The disciplinary committee does not have initial jurisdiction to be able to start its own investigation into something unless the steering committee of the party has taken a decision to do so. And no such thing happened. So the chairman refused to attend the disciplinary committee hearings, and they went on to recommend his suspension. And even the national executive that was cobbled together to effect that suspension, in my view, was improperly convened, because according to our own dictates, it's the party chairman that has to convene it. He was the subject of it, but he still has to convene it. And he was not the convener, and most of the top echelon of the MPP were not there. The former President Kufuor was not there. Myself, General Secretary, I wasn't there. Candidate Akufo-Addo was not there. His vice, Dr. Bawumia, was not there. The minority leader, as he was then known, of HMN Sabosu, was not there. His deputy, Dominic Nitiwul, was not there. The women's organizer was not there. How can you have a national executive committee without a top echelon and continue to take perhaps the most far-reaching decision of the party? So I resisted it. And of course, I became a target after resisting it. You know, I said, no, that cannot be correct. That cannot be allowed to stand. So what I did was to try and prevail on Chairman Afoko to put in an appeal, to try and work with the party structures to seek redress. And again, he wasn't happy that to do that was to virtually accept the decision of that improperly constituted National Executive Committee. But I prevailed on him for the love that we have for the MPP. And then what happened even at the appeal hearing at the National Council was the one that shocked me, because President Kufuor himself was there to appeal to the group, to prevail on them that this is a party and we work together. And if the chairman hadn't done anything serious, then he didn't see the need for that suspension. And there is no provision for a suspension in our party.
Right.
If the general secretary of the chairman has to be set aside, you have to go to Article 11, which prescribes that you have to call an emergency conference. So all those things around it.
It is clear that those processes, procedures were not followed.
That's
Do you feel victimized by any particular person? And the rhetoric has always been that the current president, who was, then flag bearer of the party, felt he couldn't work with some of you, and that he needed people he could actually work with. Is that the narrative?
Well, in this country, when you're very tough, and as I said, I've worked as press secretary to the president, and nobody could point anything at me. When you're a press secretary, you are privy to some of the most delicate information, both locally and internationally. And to the extent that the president will award me an Order of Volta officer level, and to me, he appreciates the work I did. And so I had an impeccable record as press secretary to the president. But everybody who's worked with me knows that I believe in propriety. And so I'm not one that can be manipulated easily, and sometimes some people. Are you saying
you were
feel uncomfortable?
You were ousted because you were ramrod straight. You stuck to the straight and narrow, and some people didn't like that.
Yes, I am ramrod straight. I want to buy that what you've said, and I believe in being frank and honest and straight. And I wanted to build a strong party, and I do believe Ghana needs strong parties, because it's when we have strong parties that we can hold our governments accountable when we are in government, and I think some people did not understand my posture and felt that perhaps maybe I was a bit too ambitious or too tough, and so they engineered my ouster on very flimsy allegations. What hurt me was not really the official allegations, because they went about then to organize what I call vile propaganda against me, to try to present me as someone who had betrayed the MPP, but a person who had given his youth to this party, all along and sacrificed at a time that we needed men to do so. Hadn't become the chief executive of the party. Just set about trying to build a strong party. And that's all I intended to do. That was the first time in the history of our party that we were able to ensure that all the 275 constituencies had activated accounts that all the executives were in the know, so that when we needed to mobilize them to do work at the local level, all the top executives would be in the know. So we set about building a strong party. I was disappointed in some of the elders, yes, you've mentioned, because I had worked with them from a Dubois time, and they know my character. And with current president, in 1998, I was one of the leading lights of his campaign. In fact, I held his hand at his lunch in Osu Presbyterian Church.
Wow.
In 1990.
You basically stood for him then?
Of course. We went around the 230 constituencies with him. So he knows the caliber of person I am. And to be around for these orchestrations to be carried out on my life was very low in my.
Did you feel disappointed in the current president for allowing all of that to happen?
Not only, I mean, some of the elders, a lot of them, including himself, so.
Including Akufo-Addo.
I mean, of course, let's be fair to each other. I mean, that's not what I'm trying to push. What is important for me is what happens in the future. And right now, those are things in my past. In fact, in 2016, even when I was on suspension, I organized a lot of support for the party. And a lot of the MPs or some ministers were supported with resources that I put together.
In fact, that is not in contest. I actually remember someday, heading into the Joglu area and listening to a bulletin and how, members of the MPP had said that, look, it's good to bring him back into the fold. He's been very supportive, even after his ousting and all of that. He's been very supportive. That's one thing that I think the grassroots and the entirety of your party acknowledges. But I'd like to find out from you, as we talk about how you left, so to speak, you were removed, ejected from your own party that you had been with right from the start. Did you ever post this? Bawumia was the driving force behind my suspension, Bawumia being the vice president. He was unhappy that I would be the next flag bearer after Nanado. He's extremely jealous and morally corrupt. Did you post this?
No, I don't know where this is.
Did you ever say anything
like that? I saw it. I saw it, and I responded to it last week. I don't know who did this. Again, I don't know who created that. They put my picture there. I've had a lot of interviews. If they have the audio to back it, I'm sure they would have produced it now. I haven't said any such thing. It's not correct. And again, I mean, we should stop the politics of lies, insults, and propaganda. It doesn't help us. And it keeps good people away from politics. And we need a critical mass of patriots and good Ghanaians who will be interested in running the country. And we should not let that narrative that says politics is dirty rule the day. I think politics can be nice. It's just a few dirty people who try to mess it up. Yeah. And we should kick those people out of politics. So that,
as a student of politics, I agree. We were told this in the lecture rooms. It is not politics that is dirty.
That's right.
It's the people.
It's the people
who practice the politics.
Few dirty people who mess the politics up. So it's one of those things that I don't know where it came from. I saw it. I was.
Have you bothered to trace this so that you can find which characters are behind it? Because this is basically character assassination.
Yeah, they've tried to assail my character many times, but God being good, I'm here. And that's the reason, that's what animates what I want to do, to be able to give comfort, to inspire the good people that look. Despite all the troubles and the hurdles that you have to scale in politics, you can get there. And don't be discouraged by these kinds of things that happen, So I want to encourage everyone, every good Ghanaian who thinks about the prosperity of our country to get involved in politics, especially you, the youth. That is critical so that we can create a new narrative for Ghanaians. When you are in public service, you are there to serve the interests of the community, that collegial mentality that we should have. This crumble for materialism and individualism that has gripped us as a people is something that I want to advocate against.
Okay.
And that I want that to be the platform of my campaign.
Just pay attention to these names. Former President John Dramani Mahama.
Yeah.
Profile. Then within your party, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, Vice President. Some say he's in pole position. Alan Chabating, who has served under Kufuor, has served under this administration, only recently resigned. Dr. Akoto Efriye, former Agric Minister. You are in there. Kwabena, Kennedy Ejapong, among others. All of these people have very rich CVs, which you do have too. But my question then is, why do you think you can beat all these people and become flag bearer of the MPP? What are those qualities that you feel you have that qualify you to be president, CEO of Ghana?
Ben, first and foremost, it's not about how I feel. And it's not for us as the aspirants. We don't matter that much. The important decision will be taken by the delegates. What is important, and this MPP, we've had time-honored principles, how we go about it. We have to be humble, go to the delegates, and explain ourselves to them. They know our record. Everybody has a record, as you've talked about it. And all of us have to be humble enough to submit ourselves to people like you to defend our record. And I think that over the last 1 year, and I started this exactly a year with Aisha on Joy, that my very first outing. It's been a year to start this project, doing this media tour, to tell the Ghanaian people how passionate I feel about the transformation of this country. It is the transformation of the country that matters to all of us. It's not your individual presidency. I have said before, and I want to repeat here, Ghana has practiced many economic models. Okay, whether it is PAMS card, whether it's ERP, whether it's structural adjustment, SAP, whether it's HIPIC, we have arrived where we are, not because of the different policies. It's because there's been a lack of implementation of what is right for our country. I would bring in a new drive, imposing order and discipline in our public lives. That is very important. And also a drastic penalty regime. I mean, we have to reach a point in our lives where people should be held responsible for what they do, especially to our national treasury. That, for me, is very important. The impudence must stop. So
you're speaking of corruption?
Everything. In all aspects of our national life. Value for money, quality assurance, quality control. Yes, the politicians have to take the lead in that. But it's all for us Ghanaians, whether you are a doctor or a nurse or a headmaster in a secondary school or a farmer. All of us have a role to play. And I think it is time, after 16 years, especially within the MPP, when we've had a particular leadership, President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia at the top of our ticket for 16 years, there is a crying need for a drastic departure from what we are used to. Right. That would afford the Ghanaian an opportunity. What we need now, especially as a party, is a messenger who can win the trust of the Ghanaian people. It's very important. A set of clean hands that can lead the struggle, to be able to convince the Ghanaian that what hasn't happened in the Fourth Republic, that third elusive victory, can be attained. And I do think that I bring a skill set of having been tutored within this party, having served at the presidency with President Kufuor, and have been a general secretary of the party. I have the vitality, the energy, the drive, and the principle. And again, you can look at my life experience. It is important that we walk the talk. We walk the talk, which means I've had the opportunity to do the things that others have done. I haven't done so as press secretary. I didn't add on to my real estate because my main focus is to serve my country. And I do believe that the delegates recognize who I am, the interactions they've had with me in the past and now. And I do think that when they weigh all that, I'm the one they're going to put their trust in.
You made mention of clean hands. Clean hands.
Yes.
You say you have those, but is that to suggest that some of those who are taking you on, contesting for the same slot, may not exactly be coming with clean hands?
It's not for you to draw that conclusion. I'm just talking about what I intend to do as a person. That's what I intend to do as a person.
Let's talk about this administration, how it has fared, because some say it will be very tricky for the NPP to break the 8, partly because of where we find ourselves, the economic downturn, the fluctuating currency, inflation, which thankfully now, according to agencies, is beginning to taper off, and all of that. We have a DDEP on our hands. We're hoping to get an IMF program. I could go on and on forever. Recently, you saw senior citizens. I found that a bit, I'm a young person, and you don't want to see elderly people do it. Whatever I see, you go around and see elderly people, maybe an elderly man digging a pit 6 feet. You feel for that person because you would expect that senior citizens would have a certain dignity and way of life. We had senior citizens picketing the Ministry of Finance. When you look at everything that we have to grapple with, how would you assess this administration? Let me start from the finance minister. Sophia Kufu says he has failed. What do you think?
I think my views on the finance minister and the managers of our economy have been made public maybe, 8 months ago?
Things change.
Yeah. I said that way before anybody said it. When I saw the...
I've listened to some of your interviews on that.
When I saw the direction that we were going, and I felt that it was incumbent on me as a patriot of the country, as a very senior member of our party, to try and advise the president that he had to intervene at the time. And he didn't do so, but that's his choice. He's the president. But I'm also allowed to disagree. I think I disagree with his position on the finance minister, because when you superintend this kind of difficult situation, the least you can do is to exit, and so that we can have a new energy, a new set of ideas. And I do think that the difficulty in this negotiation with the IMF is all down to the fact that they are being very diplomatic. I've been in government before. I know how these Bretton Woods institutions, how they operate. And they were not expecting the same finance minister to be leading our negotiations.
They were not?
Of course. I mean, if you have publicly come out to state the kinds of things that he said, and I would have wished that he would have done the honorable thing and stepped aside.
You're saying when he said, we're not going to the IMF, we're a proud people.
That's correct. I mean, when you do such a quick turnaround, in all developed societies, you stand down. But he hasn't done that. I don't want to keep repeating myself, because it's something I said.
Could that very factor, his retention, could it damage our prospects economically even in terms of securing it?
Well, I said it in October that it will be a long, drawn-out battle, because when you do that, they give you a set of boxes to tick that they know that we
struggle to tick.
And that's what has happened. So it's going to be a difficult process. Again, governments are given 4-year terms to run. And in politics, I've always said that 1 week is a very long time. And I hope and I do believe, and sometimes the president should listen to some of us, and we mean well for him, we mean well for the party. And therefore, when we talk like that and we say that there should be some drastic surgery of his government, sometimes it is the moral message you are sending to the Ghanaian people that matters. When we are in times of adversity and you want to put the nation on a war footing and you want to implement austerity, your conduct has to be different. You cannot continue the same way doing business and expect the rest of the population to join you in austerity. So there are a few significant things that, in my view, he should have done, which he hasn't chosen to do. But, 2 years is now less than 2 years. It's a pretty long time, and I think that he can turn it around.
Let's talk about the EMT, just by way of extension, because they have also superintended this entire development. At the helm, the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Recently, we heard from Dr. Kwabena Dufour, who said, listen, things are not going well. And he sings the same, in fact, from the same hymn book or hymn sheet, that you cannot have the same people who led us into the problem extricate us from that problem. So there should be some tweaking of the EMT. In fact, we should set them aside. Is that an opinion you agree with?
I expressed that opinion months earlier, when I tried to advise the president to remove the managers of the economy and look at the EMT and the role they are playing. Because I don't think the finance minister can be held responsible alone. Because all these things that he did, he took it through, I'm sure, cabinet. There were cabinet colleagues that saw it. I do believe that whatever policy that you are implementing, you should be able to judge the likely outcomes. For us engineers, we are results-oriented. It is the outcome of your policies that matter, not just the implementation of it. And of course, you should have been able to calculate within some limited confidence interval that this is where we're going to arrive at in a couple of years or so. And having failed to do so, he should have accepted responsibility and resigned honorably. He hasn't done that. So, I mean, it's in business and in economic management, there's something that you cannot put a finger on. It's confidence, business confidence. And when that confidence drains from the general economic environment, it's difficult to...
It's interesting because this morning during the news review, we have guests join us, and we were joined by one lawyer, Paintel, who said that, look, he's never owned bonds, but on the back of everything that has happened, he wouldn't ever have confidence to do something like that. We heard from Dr. Yao Pebi on 99.7 Joy FM some time back, who said he led other doctors, convinced them to,
invest in government bonds.
Invest in government bonds and others. And with what has happened to them, in fact, they have colleagues who blew their money laughing at them. And what does that do for confidence? So I understand exactly what you're saying.
In fact, touching government bonds really means you are rewriting the whole governance of financial governance in the country, because government bonds are supposed to be risk-free. I mean, something that we never touch, and is the lowest dividend, and everybody goes there as the last point of call. So it is a very difficult situation that we find ourselves in as a country, because it took us time to get Ghanaians to get back into the banking culture from the revolution of 1981 with the seizure of people who had 50,000 and more and that kind of stuff. People started keeping their money under their beds, and that doesn't help the economy. It took time, and a lot of work done by my boss, Mr. Kufuor, in his time to get the banking environment, in a way that was encouraging people to save. And so to bring us back to where we are today is a difficulty. But I do think that we'll fight through it.
And when you look at it broadly, how this could affect, you look at the graphic business today, no dividend for bank shareholders, DDEP erodes profits. They talk about 2020 and how difficult it was for banks. 2020 was so bad that for some banks, they couldn't make any profits, making it impossible for such payments of dividends to their shareholders in 2022. And with where we're headed, who knows how it's going to turn out in 2023. But on the back of all these developments, I've heard President Akufo-Addo say that, tout the fact that the IMF boss suggested. I remember interacting with her and her making a bit of a point. He says before COVID-19, before the Russo-Ukrainian war and all of these things that we're facing, the economy was on a steady footing. People will tell you otherwise on the back of our borrowing and the trajectory we had. How would you assess this administration? Well, if I gave you a scale of 1 to 10, where would you peg this administration?
I wouldn't give you
in terms of
I would not give you a news headline.
Effectiveness, efficiency.
What is important, in my personal view, is that as a country, even as an individual, we should never spend what we haven't earned. And that should be the underlying factor. Governments after governments have been operating deficit budget financing, and that's not very good. It gets to a point in time that we should look Ghanaians in the eye very frontally and be very honest. This is what we have, this is what we can do with it this year. I mean, this government has done a lot with road infrastructure, health infrastructure, and all that. But the most important thing is we get to a point where we can't not finance our own budget. And I think it means you have to look at how you are spending money, the spending cuts that you have to do. Do you have to start with yourself? Do we reduce the size of government? I've had reason to recall that as a country, we've been increasing the cost of running government. I mean, from 110 districts, we have arrived up 260. And what is the thinking behind that? It brings a bigger burden on the national treasury.
From 10 regions, we have 16.
We have 16. And has these districts occasioned better delivery of services to the population? Everywhere I've asked, the answer has been no. You understand? So we have to look at the governance structure. I mean, the creation of the Middle Belt, the Savannah, those development authorities, have they really helped? It's another cost center.
Coastal development authorities. And all.
These are all different cost centers. So I think we have to begin to look at ourselves. And President Kwabena Agyapong will do away with some of these things, cut down the size of government, make sure they were very efficient and effective in the use of our state money, and be upfront with the Ghanaian people on what we'll be able to achieve.
I'll go back to my question about a rating. It's not for a news article, though it could serve the purpose. But I want to believe that if, let's say the NDC were in power and I'd posed that question to you, you would be candid enough to give a rating.
No, what is important is that governments are given 4 years. And I think there's no better indication of the rating of a government than an election. And if you looked at what happened in 2016, where the MPP won, we won with a big majority, 1 million popular votes, 63-seat majority, and what transpired in 2020. That million majority was halved to 500.
Right.
That 63-seat majority dissipated.
I mean, if not for the Fomena MP who...
That's right. We had to fall on...
Who had defected, basically.
The stone that was rejected.
Right.
You understand? So that was a strong enough signal to the people, to the government and the president, to know that the Ghanaian people were not entirely enthused about the first term, which meant that some serious changes had to be made, which in my view has not been made. So it makes it even more difficult. And that is why there is a crying need to have somebody like myself who brings some new freshness, new vitality, to be able to reassure the Ghanaian people, talk to them about how we want to downsize government. And I'm not saying this because I am a candidate now. I've held these views, I've been consistent right from 2004 when I was press secretary to the president. So I believe in having this consistent messaging for our Ghanaian people. And it is time to have a message that the Ghanaian people can trust. And I do believe that on that score, I think I rate very high.
Minority Leader Dr. Atufforson has been, some say he's been acting on the party's general secretary's comments about, if you don't downsize your administration, we're also going to have some issue to take with your new ministerial appointments, those who have been assigned trade and industry and all of that. The minority is calling for the numbers to be reduced from 86 to 65. You talk about creating or having a leaner government if you're in office. Yeah. How many ministers will do for you? And mind you, Lazarus Chakwera, president of Malawi, recently downsized from, I think, 31 to 25 cabinet ministers. Across the continent, there are much bigger countries with much smaller legislative bodies, and they're doing just fine.
Yeah.
What is it with us and huge numbers? Mr. President, I'm a man in a hurry. 6 years on, is he still in a... What would you do differently in that respect?
I think I'll respect the 19 ceiling that the framers of the Constitution... Cabinet. And I don't think the framers...
I think now we have 28 or so.
We're envisaging more non-cabinet ministers than cabinet. No, we have 19 cabinet ministers. And I think every head of a ministry should be a cabinet minister. And I think a lot of the ministries should be consolidated. And I think there are quite a number of ministries that should not be existing.
Just a quick point there, because the minority in Parliament makes this point. I just want to know whether you agree with the mergers.
No, I made that point many years ago.
All of them, information.
In 2015, on hot issues, on a sister station, TV3, and I said that, look, transport has to be seen as transport. I've never, even when I was press secretary to President Kofohoni, he took out aviation and ports and harbors from transport. I was looking at him with a certain amount of...
Did you ever voice it out?
Personally, yes, but not outside. What is important is that we need, for instance, aquaculture, fisheries should be part of agriculture. Youth and sports, I mean, the natural home should be education. That's where a lot of the sports and activities...
Formally, at a point, that is what it was.
So chieftaincy used to be a secretariat at the presidency. It wasn't a ministry on its own. And is there still a ministry for public sector reform? Have we seen any serious public sector reform over the last 20 years? I don't think that should be holding out as a ministry. And there are many others that we can look at. And if you look at the configuration, you get within the 19 that the Constitution, the framers of the Constitution outlined as the maximum. And I also believe there should be one deputy minister per minister, and have the technical people do most of the hard work. That's one of the issues
people have taken issue with, because you look at trade and industry.
Yeah.
There's a deputy for trade, there's a deputy for industry, and now Dr. Stephen Amwa, Sticker as we call him, has been assigned there, and people are asking, what is he going to do?
Well, I'm telling you what I would do when I'm elected as president.
Obviously different.
That's right, very different. So I think we should have 38 ministers.
38 ministers?
Yes. 19.
Including the regional?
No. The regions will come and add up to 54.
Okay,
and
so
I think
38 plus the 16.
That should make it 54. I don't think you should go beyond 56. Maybe you have 2 non-cabinet ministers, but not quite the number that we have now. That's my personal view.
How about,
I've always shared this.
How about other appointments?
And it's not that it would really save the budget that much,
right?
But it sends a strong signal.
I agree with you.
It sends a very strong
that is what most
moral signal. And again, even the over-politicization of the state institutions. I'm a very technical person. There are very technical organizations that I think will do with less political interference. Yes, Article 71 gives the president the prerogative to appoint the CEOs of major state organizations. That is understandable because the president is the one that goes to the people for his mandate. But descending to deputies and appointing deputy chief executives in organizations that do not have deputy chief executives in their organigram is imposing more financial burden on those organizations
People stretch this and look at those who form part of the staffers.
That's right.
And in recent times, some lists that have come up, I believe the minority leader made mention of them, Youth Ambassador for Diaspora Affairs, Policy Associate, Chief Executive of Public Sector Reforms, Overseer of the National Cathedral, Church Relations Manager, Diaspora Church Mobilization Officer, Focal Person, La Francophonie, Technical Director, La Francophonie. When you look at this list, how can we save, on some of
I've worked at the presidency.
These matters?
I've worked under Kufuor before. We didn't have that. That's all I can say about that. And
you worked under Kufuor. You didn't have this.
No, I mean I could count on my two fingers the amount of senior staffers at the presidency at the time, and I mean what I'm saying.
Is this overdoing it?
So what is important?
We've spoken about 1,000 plus at a point.
No. Sometimes people get confused. There are about 700, who work there as public service workers, like parks and gardens, protocol, and all that.
We know of those.
Yes, yes. But what you add on, I think that you add on people to do a job for you. And in our time, I didn't see that many officers there. You understand? So I think it's important that the message we send across to Ghana and Ghanaians is that we are in difficult situations. And when we are in difficult situations, all of us have to cut back. And who to cut back first than the government? To send a strong example to the rest of the Ghanaian people. So it's not only about the staffing, it's about value for money in Ghana. Projects are largely over-invoiced. And I think a lot of our debt is buried in graft because I speak like this as a civil engineer who knows how jobs are done in other parts of West Africa, and we have some of the most expensive roads, and we don't back it with enough maintenance regimes. So the initial investment, we are quick to do new things without, having a strong maintenance regime. And that's the kind of thing that I want to see, to impose that kind of maintenance culture in our country.
I see the crawler, not the crawler, the slug saying 38 ministers, which is what you said indeed. But when we add the regional ministers, it will go up to 54. 54. So 54 ministers in all. Let's take a look at industrialization.
That's right.
And I've noticed that most of you who have come out to say you are lacing your boots to contest for the flag bearership of your party seem to be going down that road, from Alan Chamating to everybody else. But when you look at our imports, which actually have grown incrementally over the last few years, even as we've started talking about import substitution, rice, sugar, and everything in between, even toothpicks. I do agree that some are produced here, but when you're still importing a lot from China and other places, it adds to your burden and puts pressure on your currency.
That's correct.
But here's the interesting bit. K.T. Hammond in Parliament yesterday made mention of what the Nigerians call pomo, wele, intestines, guts. We spent $165 million on that. What would you do differently in that regard?
I think what is important is that when you are in government, and I've always said that if I was finance minister, I'll have a focus on what the strength of my currency has to be. You understand? Because a country that has all these resources should not just allow our currency to slide anyhow and be in a tailspin as we've seen recently. We started from 1-1 after the redenomination, and I think we should never have exceeded 5. And again, if you look at the demand stream, who are the people who need the dollars in our country? And I've asked this question of the finance ministry. I've never had any answers. It's important that we isolate the critical sectors of the economy that we need to support. For instance, the BDCs, they import fuel, okay? And the export price is determined by the currency exchange, largely. Because if you look at the world price for crude oil, it's been going down significantly. We have not felt it at the pump because of the weakening currency. So if government has organized its finances to be able to satisfy that demand and take them out of the general economic environment. You understand? And say, okay, we can provide it to you at 1 to 5, for instance, and fix the export price based on 5 cedis to the dollar. That will make a big impact on transportation, because once you reduce the cost of transportation, it has a direct impact on inflation, on food prices, everything. You understand? So some of these interventions have to be made. You can't say for the sake of economics and that everything has to be market-oriented. All parts of the world, when you are in trouble, governments intervene. And when you isolate and take that demand away from the market, if you want to go and buy intestines, go and look for your own dollar. You understand? And again, that false demand that was occasioned by the loss of confidence in the economy, where a lot of Ghanaians who didn't need the dollar were purchasing it as an instrument of investment, because they knew that if they took it in January, it was 1 to 6.
Some were deliberately hoarding.
Hoarding it. Once the government can intervene in the way I'm talking about, most people will realize that there's no sense in keeping it under their beds. There will be a glut on the market. So there are a few innovative interventions that I think that the managers of the economy should have done. I think they picked on a few by saying that they were not going to give monies to those who are, and they didn't give me credit for the advice. Anyway.
I see. So that was your.
Well, I said that many times before they acted, because you cannot allow, the economy just to tail out like that. There has to be some intervention. We have to be deliberate in what we do, and we should be able to segment the demand. I mean, pharmaceuticals, for instance. A lot of Ghanaian my colleagues in pharmaceuticals, they've taken a big hit. Because you go and import, they've taken a big hit. I know a lot of them in business have taken a big hit. Because you go and import drugs, and at the time it was, say, 6 cedis to $1, and now you're having to pay your creditors at, 12 or 13 cedis to $1. Your business is gone. You understand? So these are difficult decisions that we as a government should have taken. And it's not too late to do that. To isolate the demand envelope and be able to see the key areas that government will say, look, these people, I'll be able to satisfy their demand for dollars, but at this rate. And I can tell you, once you do that and you ensure that gangsterism doesn't take over, because there are always rumors of how do the black market get the dollars that they have, the fresh notes that they have, because they do not print notes and they should not have custody of those things. You understand? So always it's important that we have strong supervisory division of the Bank of Ghana. And so far, nobody has been punished at the central bank for what happened.
That's another call people have made.
It's very serious, because there's supposed to be a banking supervision division. So what happened during the banking crisis? Nobody has been held responsible. And again, there's no political will to punish those banks that took liquidity support and misapplied it and misused it. We've had...
You followed the court case with...
I think it's too laborious, and I mean, there's not enough political will and determination to punish wrongdoing. It's important that we do that, to set a strong example. And when there was the housing collapse in America, I mean, Lehman Brothers and other people were in jail. You understand? And so far, not in the regulatory side of it and not in the banking side of it. Nobody has been punished, and people are walking about free. It encourages other people to take similar risks.
Impunity then. But let's talk about a few more issues as we wrap the conversation. Gold for oil, what's your take on it? Some have said there are so many pitfalls, and if we're not careful. In fact, even before it came out, I had been on the show indicating, because I had trusted information, that we were not getting it from the United Arab Emirates. It was actually sourced from Russia. And there have been so many dynamics. In fact, it came out that we didn't even use gold to make that first purchase. We spent over some $40 million to secure that. What do you make of that project?
I think, first and foremost, we have become too presentational as a people. I think PR has taken over our lives. We should be real about what we do, okay? And not make too much noise about something that has even not started or happened. That's the first call. Number two, I have very radical views on how we are managing the extractive environment. Because I know, this is a fact, and I think the government knows, there has been an audit that even we cannot monitor the production properly. Whether it is deliberate or not, I don't know. But we have paid state entities like PMMC, Minerals Commission, to regulate the industry. Because the data that we have, or I have seen from some audit reports that I do believe that the government has, suggest that the disparity between what we are recording as leaving the shores of Ghana and what is arriving at the major destinations for our minerals, it's about 5 times.
In fact, we've seen records in the past, India, saying that this is how much it is imported from Ghana by way of gold, for example, which is far more than our projected projection or production that year. Same with the United Arab Emirates. And you ask yourself, how is that happening?
That's right. So these are institutional things that we should be tightening as a country. That's where I want to look at first. Because we are being skimmed off, whether with collusion from our own state officials or these investors are being very smart with us. And this is when we are onshore. So what happens with the oil offshore? Right. When we are not there, how do we know 30 miles offshore how much oil we are producing when we can even hear sometimes that the flow meters that are gauging the production can go faulty? So we have very serious systemic issues that we have to deal with. And that's what President of Japan would like to deal with. Firm, decisive leadership, punishing those who tinker with our treasury, and send a strong signal to the Ghanaian people that impudence cannot be allowed, because I think we have all the laws, we have all the policies. It's a lack of enforcement and implementation and a lack of compliance with quality control and quality assurance. That is what is hurting our economy.
And that is what you bring to
bear. That is what I bring to
the
bear.
National Cathedral.
Look, let me tell you something.
$400 million projected. Egypt is building a CNC factory with that.
Well, the issues about, I'm surprised at the issues about the National Cathedral. Because first and foremost, in my view, or that's what I thought this was a private project. And all of us Christians.
When you say private project, what do you mean? The president's
Well, I mean, when the president said it, I thought that he was going to call on us Christians to make contributions. We have been building our own cathedrals, whether it's at my church at Mount Sinai in Kwabenya Methodist or wherever. So I think that if the president calls on us, the Christians, we can make a contribution so that we don't need to take money out of our budget. We are stressed enough, dealing with the difficulties that we are facing, that I think that as Christians, I would like to see a national cathedral. There's a national mosque. But the
national mosque put up solely by funding from the Turks.
That's what I'm saying. They were also funding from Ghanaian Muslims.
Yes,
so I know Ghanaian.
By and large,
that's right.
But it was adherents of the faith who contributed to that.
That's what we should do. And I think I want to call on the adherents of the Christian faith to contribute to that, and so that the government can take itself out of it, so that we don't need to fall on the national budget to do so. There are quite a lot of Christians in our country, and all of us can make a commitment to building our national mosque, our national cathedral. So
let's just wrap with a few concerns. I'll just try to rope them together. There's the bit about an early Congress, the pros and cons of it, give people ample time to campaign. Others say it will take the spotlight from the presidency, and it will make some people, everyone will start gunning for roles and all of that. It will take away from the performance of the administration. The other bit is General Secretary. You now have JFK at post, your new chairman, Stephen Ayesu in team, a perennial contender who now has the nod. But some say pegging them with the NDC's Johnson Esiedu Nketia and Fifi Fiavikwete is political suicide. What do you think about these two issues, very quickly?
First and foremost, I think that kind of thought has to be debunked. I mean, why are they saying that? I mean, Esiedu Nketia is a known entity in this country. We know his strengths. We've defeated him several times. So why are you saying...
He's defeated you a number of times.
Yeah, so we know ourselves. So it's not a new entity. There's nothing new about Esiedu Nketia that will surprise me, much less Fifi Kwete, who used to be propaganda secretary.
So you think JFK and Stephen...
It is not about the two of them.
Have the mettle to be able to do it.
It is not the individuals who decide. It is how strong your party machinery is. And this our MPP. The way it is fashioned and constructed, right from the polling station through the electoral area coordinators to the constituencies and regions, and the national.
It can be done.
It is a much stronger political machine.
What do you think of an early Congress?
I'm coming. Anytime we've won elections in this country, we've won with huge margins. I mean, if you take the Rawlings' victories where we were tied, our hands were tied behind us, anytime the NDC has won, it's by the skin of their teeth. So I know the MPP has the numbers. If we can energize our base and there's no apathy and anger within the party, and we can have a united, cohesive force, the chances are that we would defeat the NDC any day.
Early Congress?
Okay? I don't understand the talk about early or late Congress.
Your constitution has its own stipulations.
Yes, so we should follow the constitution. The constitution says that when you are in government, you do it, I think it's 11 or 12 months to the next election. So if we can fix it on December 6, 2023, why not? That is what we will not be breaching the constitution. Right. It can be in November. Okay. I mean, there shouldn't be an argument about this. You know, people are saying this for their own interest, because I need to take you back into history. You know, Professor Dubois, when we lost in 1992 and we wrote a stolen verdict, you know, there was a school of thought within the party that, look, because we wrote a stolen verdict, then he should be presented for 1996. So the Congress was delayed till 1996, and Mr. Kufuor outsmarted him. After that, everybody then wants an early Congress, because those who have the early advantage don't want others to campaign.
Point made. To cap off the conversation, very final bit to you. Are you still on good terms, speaking terms, affable terms with President Akufo-Addo?
Of course. I mean, in 2020, all of you saw me campaigning around the country with him. It's somebody I've known. We've had a long history together. Of course, we've had a few differences. I don't see him as often as I used to these days, but we meet at National Council, National Executive, and he's...
Why do you think that is?
Well, we've had a difficult last 8 years, you understand, with what happened, what transpired with my unfortunate and illegitimate suspension from office, albeit on very hushed up, lies and, on orchestrations against me. And I think that there were a lot of the seniors in this party who knew what I've done for this party, who know my character intensively and should have stood by me. They didn't. So that created a little bit of a situation. But since then, I've put these things behind me. And then when the president invited me to support his campaign for re-election, I didn't attach any conditions. And I didn't even expect anything, So I just went in as a true servant of the MPP, worked myself off to support him, and he won, albeit a very small margin. So I have good relations. I call him once in a while these days, but that's fine.
Kwabena, thank you for joining us for this conversation. And we wish you the very best on this encounter. I hear KAA is your catchphrase now.
That's
KAA,
right.
Kwabena Ajay Ejapong.
KAA on the triple S.
Wow.
Service, sacrifice, and selflessness. I'm the embodiment of that.
Okay.
And I'm sure the party people appreciate that.
So KAA on the SSS. Interesting way to cap off the conversation as we have had this morning. Engineer Kwabena Ajay Ejapong. Well, stay with us because even as we move away from the politics, there's still a lot in our educational sector. Over 165,000 of those who sat the BECE have not been placed. A lot of them have thronged the Nat Hall here in Accra. My colleague Mapito Sibidi is standing by in respect of the CSSPS placement, and she will be joining us for that conversation. Mapito, if you can hear me, what is the latest you're gathering from the Nat Hall this morning?
I spoke to the Deputy Coordinator for the Free SHS, Nana Afresi-Kamense, and she says from Thursday until today, they have resolved about 4,196 cases. Most of those cases are either that they wanted to change their residency, so boarding or day scholar. But I'm going to speak to some parents and some students to ask them what they are doing here. Good morning. Patro, what are you here to do?
So I'm coming from my schools.
You want to change your school?
Yes.
Which schools do you want to change?
Quatri Agri Memorial, Infantamai and Ghana National.
Why do you want to change your
Because I haven't get my placement on my school.
So you didn't get any placement?
Yes.
And then what aggregates did you get?
I get 32.
Thank you. But so have you taken your paper and given it to them?
It's here.
So you're about to write to the schools and then give it to them, right?
Okay.
So let me speak to a parent here. Daddy, good morning.
Morning.
You're live on JoyNews. I wanted to know what brings you here today.
For my daughter.
Okay, so your daughter, does she want to change her school?
They are not pleased in this school at all. Yeah, at all.
So which schools do you want her to go to?
Pardon me?
Which schools?
Which schools?
Yeah, which schools?
Oh, I'm going to write Adontin, and then Kropon, Mampon, Prisek, and then Temasku.
And what aggregates did she get?
Pardon me? 20.
Yes. And then what course does she want to study?
Home economics.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's one parent whose ward hasn't gotten placement yet, but I'm going to speak to another. Mami, good morning.
Good morning.
I wanted to know what brings you here today.
Me, Benny.
Okay. So, Mami.
My problem is the change of status. Yeah, I got the day, so I'm here to change it to boarding.
And which school is that?
Nifa Senior.
And then what aggregates did you get?
25.
And then which course do you want to study?
General Arts. Yeah.
But then have you given them your paper already?
Yes, I've given them my paper.
But then, they said that once you've given them their paper, there's no need to be here. So are you waiting for them to say something, or you have spoken to them?
Yeah, my mom said we should sit here. I don't know why she's sitting here.
But this is your first time today that you came?
Yeah, I came here last week Thursday. Yeah.
And you haven't gotten a call yet?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see. Mommy, good morning. Good morning.
Nacho, me bano, onya pam. Nansu, up a boarding, so I'm a man a day. Insi any day.
So you just have to change your status of your residency. So just write that you want to change from day to boarding.
Okay, we have wrote it, sorry.
Which school? Which school?
Apam.
Okay, and then what does she want to study? What course?
Science. Yes.
And what aggregate did she get?
It gets 24. Yes.
All right, thank you. All the best, okay? Thank you. All right, let's see if we can get more students and more parents to speak to. We have students here. Good morning. So what are you here to do?
I'm here to change my school.
Why?
Because I don't like the school I get.
What school did you get and what school do you want to change to?
I got Komasaman Senior. I want to change to B school. B school.
What school is that?
Home econs.
And then is it day or is it boarding?
Boarding.
And then which course do you want to study?
Sorry?
Which course?
Home econs.
Thank you. So that's another student with another problem. Okay, Mommy, good morning.
My name is Dinah. Yeah.
So what brings you here?
I have a set of twins. One got a day school, one didn't get at all. Unfortunately, I didn't want a day school. So if they want to do digital, I think they should do it and do it well. For me, I think Ghana is not too ready for the digital because it is people that feeds in the information. And they asked us to choose schools from the cluster so that if I choose one school, and it's in a cluster, and my ward doesn't get that school, then he or she can get it from one of the clusters. But none of that thing happened. I am a nurse. I'm a principal nursing officer. I have to leave work and come and sit here with my baby. I have a baby as well, and do all these things. So if they want to do it, then they should do it well. Otherwise, then I think the former way of selecting the schools is better, where the schools will go and then pick the forms, so that if I choose New Jabin, and New Jabin doesn't take me, and then we have maybe Mount Sinai, also in the eastern region, and they feel my grade can suit what I want to do, maybe home economics, then they should pick it. I feel that will be better than all of us coming to stay here and doing all this thing all day.
So which school did you choose?
New Jabin. I chose, I think, Abetifi. Any of
the one twin, which school did she get?
They gave her Ashaiman Secondary School, which is a day school. From my home to Ashaiman is 3 cars. So as a government worker, how much do you pay me for me to give 3 cars in and out with pocket money? That's going to put a lot of stress. And they are not the only children. I have other dependents as well. So if they want to do it, I feel they should do it and do it well. Yes.
Let me see if I can speak to the free SHS coordinator, deputy coordinator, Nana Apersi Kamensa, who will tell us the numbers and tell us how it has been going so far. Nana, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, yourself.
All right. Today is day 4. How has it been so far?
Oh, so far so good. I think we've resolved a majority of the issues. That is why you see that the numbers have reduced drastically. So we will face everybody. So they should just be patient for us.
Okay. And then, so how are the numbers looking? How many issues have you resolved?
So far, I think we had 5,300 and something, but we've resolved almost 4,000 flags. Yeah.
And you'll be here for 6 weeks, so any problems, they should come.
Exactly, yeah, they should come. We will resolve what they are.
Well, Benjamin, you just heard from the deputy coordinator of the Free SHS, Nana Apersi Kamensa, and she says they have solved about 4,000 cases. They had about 5,000 cases for 4 days. They had 5,000 cases, and more cases keep on coming. But they are asking the public, they're asking the parents, they're asking the wards to please be patient, and all of their cases will be resolved. Back to you in studio.
First of all, we have results.
Welcome back on the AM show. And after all the talk about politics and what has been happening as far as the vetting of ministers designate and indeed the CSSPS and the placement issues, how about we also talk about World Evangelism and Mission 2023? And it comes off in Cape Coast from this Friday. The Be Led for Christ, BLFC, is leading youth to Christ through life-transforming encounters and mission work. Well, joining us for that conversation, Kwabena Asenso Ochre. He's a pastor. Kwabena, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on the AM show.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me, Benjamin. I appreciate it.
Tell us a bit about this project. When was it initiated? How did all of this start?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So it was about 2018. I was in Ghana, and I had a trip to Ghana, a mission trip. And I was looking, God had sent me on an assignment to start something. And on my trip, I encountered some street children. And this is where it was birthed in 2018. Obviously, COVID hit, and there were some challenges. And so Be Led was a flagship program at the time, LED standing for Learning, Evangelism, and Discipleship. And out of that, through a lot of prayer and then just waiting on the Lord, it came to this point where we established as a nonprofit NGO in the United States, Atlanta, Georgia, to be specific. Be Led for Christ is as you mentioned, the World Evangelism and Missions movement that looks to reach the youth, next generation. We integrate faith with learning, with leadership, with innovation, and with sports. And so, yes, you're right. It's going to be an exciting time in Cape Coast, and we can't wait. Looking forward to that.
You've given us what I would call a teaser, but what is your mission? What is your vision? What are you aspiring to in the here and now? and what eventually do you want this to expand into?
Yes, very good question. Thank you for that. So our mission is essentially to transform lives. We believe that through Christ and encountering Christ, the youth at this tender age have an opportunity to integrate their learning with everything else that they are encountering. As emerging leaders, these are the ones who are tomorrow's leaders. And so we want to encounter them. We want to have them come into the full purpose and the understanding of who they are. So the identity is key to us in terms of our mission and being able to bring the awareness of Christ to them. Our whole concept and our goal is to be able to partner. We are connected. We see ourselves as a bridge. We connect with local ministries, organizations. And through our partnerships, we're able to help these youth, help these young adults in that space to be able to achieve the success that they need to achieve and reach the limits that God has ordained for them. So essentially fulfilling their purpose, transforming their lives, and then exceeding the expectations that are set for them.
Do tell us a bit more about the upcoming program and what you mean to deliver. What can we expect?
Yes, absolutely. So it's going to be a 3-day event. It actually starts and kicks off this Friday in Cape Coast. Holy Child School has gracefully accepted to host us. We have about 10 different schools gathering here. Essentially, we're going to be having sports, basketball primarily. Time factor, so we couldn't incorporate too much of that. But basketball is going to be the focus point in the morning. There's going to be exhibition games, friendly scrimmages, so to speak, between the schools in the afternoon. So this starts around 9 o'clock. Give or take till about 12 or 1, then we'll be transitioning. And throughout this whole time, evangelism will be going on. We have counselors, we have patrons. It's going to be a very effective occasion for us to just bring the gospel to these students. In the afternoon is where we move into our crusade. It's going to be an awesome time in God's presence. We have minstrels who are going to be ministering. We have prayer partners and all kinds of things. So essentially, through the program, we're going to expect that it's going to be an integration of faith with leadership, with learning, with innovation and sports. And out of it, we hope that this is something that will be a blessing and impact these folks for the rest of their lives.
At a time such as this, with all the happenings across the world, especially concerning youth and some being gunned down and others getting involved in so many things, the use of drugs, gun violence in our own country, unemployment, underemployment, so many things that are going on, especially affecting the youth. Why do you feel it is important to organize an event such as this, especially with the youth being targeted?
Yeah, I think that with the youth, our belief is that just as it is in the Bible, this generation is very integral into society's development and so on and so forth. So if you can train a youth, if you can get a youth off the streets, if you can get a youth off of drugs, if you can, it builds a security system, so to speak, for the neighborhood. So just imagine a youth who was ministered to, and the potential for them to be able to be somebody in life one day, versus the downside of it, where now they can be a threat to society. This bridges that gap. This allows us to be able to take them off of the streets, off of the threat system, and put them in a position that they can be a blessing. They can be a benefit to society. So this essentially has the faith aspect to it, but we also believe that it does have a lot of constructive, social benefits as well to society. And we're excited about it. We're coming to Ghana. It's a worldwide ministry. We look forward to also being able to partner with other schools and other folks in other countries as well. But charity begins at home, and so Ghana is where it is. I attended St. Augustine's College, and so I'm excited that St. Augustine's College also is participating in these games. So it's going to be exciting. The crusade is going to be amazing. We're trusting the Lord for the presence of God to be there. So it's going to be a good time.
Are there any organizations you're partnering with to execute this, to make this happen?
Yes, yes, there are a number of them. Just to name a few. So we have, for example, Lead Like Jesus. It's an example of an organization that we're partnering with on the leadership side, because we believe that as these souls encounter Christ, the transformation is an ongoing process, and so leadership is key. And so we're partnering with Lead Like Jesus. They have a program called Ignite. We're looking forward to roll that out with them. At the same time, we have other ministries that we're also partnering with on a discipleship front to ensure that there's that spiritual nourishment and growth as well. We also have partners in the United States that we also partner with. There's several other organizations that we're partnering with, but we're getting started, and we're looking forward to also partnering with other organizations locally and abroad. So we welcome them.
Beyond this program you're organizing, what are your next plans? Is this something you're going to continue?
Yes, Benjamin. This is our hope and our goal. This is looking at it as more of a flagship program. It's called Transform Jesus Christ Encounter. So look for it. God willing, yearly we're looking to partner and bring this to the schools, bring this to the youth, the next generation. And again, as it's sustained throughout the year, we hope that we can always come back, because obviously the kids, they're in school for just 3 years. And so with the shifts that they take because of capacity and so on, we look for the seniors to sort of become evangelists so that they can pass sort of these nuggets on to the youth, to the younger generation, the Form 1s, the Form 2s, so that when we come back, we're able to pick up the momentum and then continue to build this revival. So yes, absolutely, we're looking forward to picking this up. We're also looking at Greater Accra. We're also looking at Ashanti region, as well as places where we would want to bring this as well. So looking forward to partnerships with local ministries and leaders. And so we're definitely excited to partner on that.
Before I take your final words, I see you have different categories under the BLFC umbrella: Transform, Missions, and all of that. Tell us a bit about those.
Absolutely. So it's Be Led for Christ. It's a movement. We see it as a movement, and it's under these three wings, as you mentioned. The evangelistic wing, we do have the missions wing, and then we have the transformation wing. So under the evangelistic wing, essentially, it has to do with being able to bring the gospel to the nations, to the youth, as it were. So preaching Christ and Him crucified and Him resurrected, and the good news about the gospel. Then we have the missions. Our missions, we look at how we can partner with organizations locally, with churches, and so on. And we provide certain support, if we can and where we can, to orphanages, to widows. We work with youth and juvenile centers. So we do work here locally and do work whenever we come into any territory. We try to find a way to do a little bit of charitable work there. So we've been doing that. Just recently we did that as well, partnering with certain organizations. Transformation, essentially, as mentioned earlier, it has to do specifically with the integration of faith with leadership, where we look to mentor the youth. And so we partner with practitioners, we partner with the enterprise of folks who are in the workforce, entrepreneurs and so on, so they can impart knowledge and wisdom onto the youth. The innovation falls under that as well. Sports, we look for ways that we can build these partnerships for these students to also have an opportunity for scholarships to go into the different schools, different universities, vocationals, and so on and so forth. Discipleship, all of these integrate itself into the transformation. So these are the three wings that we pretty much measure through and look for outcomes and try to gain some results from, with the help of God, obviously.
Obviously. Well, Kwabena, thank you for joining the conversation. Any final words?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your listenership and your viewership. I appreciate everyone's time. I would like to say that this Friday is going to be an awesome event. So if you are in town, if you have a few moments and you can stop by, even for past students, feel free to stop by. Holy Child will be hosting St. Augustine's College at Isadel Infantipim, Wesley Girls Agri, all the schools in Cape that you can think of, even the neighboring schools. We've been out there evangelizing, taking tracts out to let people know that this is what is happening in the town this weekend. So this Friday, starting at 9 a.m., we'll be taking off. Saturday, same thing, and then Sunday is our leadership summit where we bring it all together and call it a wrap. So 3-day session. Be Led for Christ is coming to town. We're excited. We can't wait to see you there. Please help be a part of this, and God bless you. Thank you.
Just before you go, this skipped my mind. Is there any virtual avenue that people can connect with you on? Any virtual platform where people can join this bit on?
Yeah, so I'm on social media. Be Led for Christ is on social media. We're building the base at the moment, and so we're looking to structure things and build the right platforms as well. So at the moment, it's social media, Be Led for Christ. Please follow us there. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, IG, as it were. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn. So we're trying to spread our wings as much as we can to just continue to evangelize through these platforms and these tools, as we know the age that we're in, the technology age. And so that's where we are. We will have short clips. We'll have some media that we'll also share on our website. The website is beledforchrist.org. And so, definitely looking forward to publicizing the word and what the Lord will do with these folks this weekend.
Well, Kwabena, thank you so much for having joined the conversation, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. Have a good one.
Thank you. Kwabena Asenso Ochiri, a pastor, and that drive there coming off in Cape Coast. Well, do stay with us up next on all those issues we've been discussing, from the politics to the school placement system and to all the other conversations we've had. You can share your thoughts with us right here on the AM show. When we return after the break, you know the number to call, 0302-211-691. But before we take that break, are you looking for a job in the world of technology? Are you looking for a platform that equips you to land your dream job in the tech space? Then the 2023 edition of the Tech Job Fair is for you. The venue is the Accra International Conference Center. The date, Wednesday, February the 22nd, 2023. The time is 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The theme is leveraging technology to create inclusive and sustainable jobs. Organizers of the event, Institute of ICT Professionals Ghana and AFOS Foundation. Supporters or exhibitors include German Development Corporation under the Invest for Jobs program, Jobberman, Lene Services, MTN, GIZ, AHK, Netherlands Trust Fund, Admin Telecom, among others. I'm sure you'd like to reach us. Call or WhatsApp on 0242-912-027 or 0201-233-215 for more information. The job fair is free and open to all. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show. Before we hear from you, let's take you live to the court complex. Now, a number of members of the opposition, NDC, and traditional authorities from the North Tong constituency have gathered to support their MP in court. Now, this case has to do with that case filed by Reverend Kusi Boateng. Joseph Akable joins us with more. Joseph, I know you are at the court complex. What exactly is transpiring there?
And so the court is actually holding its hearing. It's the very first hearing. We understand that this is the contempt aspect of the case that has been filed by Reverend Kusi Boateng against Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. The hearing itself is taking place on my left-hand side at the court premises, but on my right-hand side is where you have a number of individuals who have gathered here clad in red, and they are singing and dancing. And our understanding is that they are from the constituency, the MP's constituency, and they've come here to lend their support. I'm just moving over to engage them and try and understand what brings them here this morning. I mean, we know that it's for the hearing itself, but it's not clear why exactly they've come here. I can speak to you, right? Good morning, how are you doing?
Good morning, how are you?
I mean, first, let me understand, which group is this?
This is from Northtown, the citizens of Northtown, per se.
Okay, and as far as you understand what is taking place inside the court, what brings you here?
Allege that our boss, our MP, the leader of Northtown, which is the MP, is in the court. So the citizens felt that they are supposed to be here to support him. Whatever is going to happen, and they are here to support him.
I mean, but so far, do you have an understanding of what exactly the issues are here? I mean, because to come to the conclusion that you need to come here and support me, you must have some appreciation of what is going on.
Alleged one, Kwesi Boati made an allegations of true identity. That's what we know so far. So we are here to find out what is allegation that she's making, whether it's true or not. But we are here as a citizen because we know the MP, what is the MP is capable to do. So we are here as a veterans, we are here as a citizen of Northtown to support our MP. That's more the reason why we are here.
And the songs they are singing, I don't understand what are they saying?
Oh, it's like a work song.
Like a work song?
A work song, yes. Their son is in a cross zone that they feel that they want to be here and support him. So that's all I can say so far.
Ben, I know your ever is better, so I'll let you listen to a bit of the singing that is coming in, Ben.
Don't criticize me about what I'm doing, but try also to do something so that you also can get a name, a proper name. So if maybe simply means that what Okujeto is doing, that's the name is all over, that we all know that everywhere you reach Wadi Bebia, the name is all over, that you want to destroy his name, you want to destroy his image. That's the meaning of the song. Do something so that you also get a name. That's the meaning of the song.
Okay, so I mean, Ben, that is the explanation of the song there. So in just a couple of minutes, we'll be having the Member of Parliament and his legal team emerge from this particular side there. Where the hearing is taking place on this side. I've spotted some individuals who are here. I've seen the former deputy youth organizer of the NDC, Eric Edemagbana. He is in the white there, right over there. He'll be coming over so that we engage him quite briefly here. And so he is here to support the Member of Parliament for the area here. And so he is coming over, but the hearing itself is taking place in the courtroom, and we expect in some couple of minutes the Member of Parliament and his legal team will be coming out to address the gathering here, we are told, and more importantly, to have an understanding of what exactly has transpired so far. And so Eric Edemagbana joins me here. I mean, Adam, what brings you here? I mean, we are told that they are here to support their Member of Parliament. Is it the same for you?
It's the same for me. I'm here to support the truth. I'm here to support accountability, and I'm here to support a Member of Parliament who has distinguished himself as a true son of the land, who has distinguished himself as an anchor for the campaign against corruption and the systemic rot that we see. When you pay attention to the things happening, it is important that the likes of Honorable Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa must be celebrated for exposing the lies and the rotten system that we are in. Look at the case before the court, very trivial, such that a man of God or a supposed man of God who on different occasions has used different names, different dates of birth, and different personal data or biodata, such a person will be the one seeking to gag a Member of Parliament from doing his work. That in 2016 he has a different voter's ID card with different date of birth. 2020, different age, different date of birth. On numerous occasions, his family has celebrated him for different dates of birth. This is the kind of system that we are, and it's important for us to expose it. Honorable Ablakwa deserves our support. He deserves our commendation, our encouragement for the good work that he has done and what he is doing for the Republic of Ghana. Instead of being persecuted, as the Akufo-Addo government is seeking to use the judiciary to persecute him, we believe we are here as his friends, as his people, as true believers in democracy to support him. That is why we are here.
Now, this is a private matter. I'm not too sure what the reference to the president. This is a matter between the Reverend Kusi Boateng and the member of parliament. He says he has been defamed and he's brought the matter up.
It's not a private matter. It's not a private matter at all because, for example, the Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa has gone to church. We have a group that have also petitioned the CID, and they claim they are investigating. But when you look at all these institutions, the institutions head or the institutional heads are appointed by the president. What is happening this is not the first time we are seeing the judiciary being used to gag people who have become the voice of accountability. We are here to express our support. We believe that the right things must be done. We believe that if the president is interested in fighting corruption, all the very important issues Honorable has raised, by now they would have dissolved the National Cathedral Board. He was appointed as Victor Kusi Boateng. When he came to court, he is in court as Kwabena Edu Jemfi alias Kusi Boateng. When did Akufo-Addo start appointing people with their nicknames or their alias as into boards and committees of the state? So you can see clearly there is what I believe a criminal gang in place, and we must expose them. I am calling on all pastors, all Christians, that I am a devout Christian. I have great love and respect for members of the church. I have great love and respect for pastors, for Christian leaders. But when you have a Christian leader doing things that are contrary to what the Bible preaches, contrary to the tenets of Jesus Christ, we must be ready to expose them. Victor Kusi Boateng or Kwabena Edu Jemfi should not think that he can use the court to gag Honorable Ablakwa. It will never happen today. It will never happen. In fact, expect more expose in the coming days. We will expose more things. All that he is doing at YEA with his wife as the board chairman. We'll release all of that.
Okay, thank you very much. So Eric Edemagbana, you heard him over there. He's a former deputy national youth organizer of the opposition NDC. And so, Ben, we are right here at the Law Court Complex. We are tracking that particular court case, and we'll bring our viewers the very latest. I'll leave you with a bit of the sights and sounds from the Law Court Complex.
And that is my colleague Joseph Akakpo reporting from the law complex, where indeed you see those people massed up there to support the Member of Parliament for North Tongue, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. We also saw Edem Agbana there of the NDC. Interestingly, we've heard from the North Tongue legislator who has said that it was a fake bailiff who served him with the court papers. But we've got to that point where we can squeeze in a few minutes to take some calls from you. So if you want to react to any of these stories, even the last one that we just took a look at, you can call in now, share your thoughts with us, 0302-211-691. What are your thoughts? Share them with us now. In the next 5 to 6 minutes, we should be wrapping up on the show. But that gives you a window of time to get interactive with us. 0302-211-691. Don't you forget, this morning, we've looked at a number of matters. We have looked at politics. We had Kwabena Ajapong, who wants to lead the NPP into election 2024. He joined us for a conversation. We have spoken about the CSSPS and the dynamics at the Nat Hall. We've also reflected on what transpired in Parliament yesterday, focusing on that vetting of Kobina Tahiru Hammond, the Minister Designate for Trade and Industry. And now we have had that interaction from the law complex in terms of that case between Reverend Kusi Boateng and Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. As always, we have Akonoba joining the conversation this morning. Good morning.
Yeah, Ben. Morning. How are you, my brother?
I'm well. What are your thoughts for us?
Yeah, Ghana is solidly behind Okujeto Ablakwa. But I want you journalists to do something for me. We were in this country, that an MP, who I see as being about the laws of Ghana. I see him as he's about the laws of Ghana. Kennedy Japan. He sat on his own TV station, ran down a judge, insulted a judge. I want to ask the Chief Justice, what has happened to that case? Ask him for me. I mean, we have the right to seek information. So ask the Chief Justice, Justice Kemi Yeboah, that what has happened, that case, Kennedy Japan, he has insulted the judge, he's walking free. So you see, in Ghana, as some people about the laws of Ghana, yes, I believe so, because Kennedy Japan is about the laws of Ghana. Thank you.
Akonoba, thank you for sharing your thoughts and a bit of irony in your words there, but those are the thoughts you have. Before we take any other calls, if you have anything to share, do let us know and we'll take them. But we all know water is life. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. And guess what? We have the perfect sizes for all purposes. 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want a lot more. Our 19-liter jar bottles are ideal for homes and offices. All you must do now is drink Awake purified drinking water wherever you go. So choose a bottle of Awake purified drinking water today and get quality hydration. Awake purified drinking water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you buy, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center, and that is indeed heartwarming. It's another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. For bulk purchases, just call 0262 351 251. 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. Our last caller is Hamza. Hamza, where are you calling from?
Ben, good morning. I'm calling from Ashama. It's been a while.
It has. Good to hear from you.
Saudi Junior.
Right. What are your thoughts?
Please, I remember just after work I've been trying to come through, but I've not been able all the time when I call. After work up and I saw FIFA President Benjamin Akakpo and the Vice President Benny analyzing Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. And I was like, hey, Charlie, you know, well, I want to contribute to the nomination of. Please, I have just a simple question now. Can the Deputy Minister of what you call Trade elevated to Minister so that we can, cut the cost more? So can it be done? Like, I mean, I am just asking. I am just naive. I'm asking if it cannot be done. I'm just.
It can be done, but that would also leave another deputy ministerial role vacant, and someone would have to fill it anyway.
And so, Ben, please, the deputies, what do they do at all? I mean, what do they do?
I am not in government. You would have to ask government officials from the ministry to answer.
I remember when this our president came to power, 2016, 17, they were complaining that Mama chopped the meat, leaving the bones. If you were a good father, if you were a thinkable father, you don't blend the bones, the rest of the bones, to share for 100 and something ministers. You rather protect the bone to get meat on the bone. But our president rather blended the bone and then shared for ministers, bloated ministers, and they did very little. Then now we are where we are today. Cut some ministers, merge some, and then you said no. What kind of president is this?
Thank you, Hamza, for sharing your thoughts with us. By the way, the ministers are 86 now. And when you look at the ministries, the ministers and their deputies, yes, we can save quite a bit from there, but not so much really. Like Kwame Japan said when he spoke with me, it's more about the optics. It's more about showing that government or the executive is also tightening its belt along with the people. If you're feeding the people a DDEP in these times, it's not the time to further expand when it comes to ministerial portfolios. But thank you, Akonoba and Hamza, for sharing your thoughts. And this is how we cap off the AM show. Don't you forget, join us at the 2023 edition of the Tech Job Fair, venue Accra International Conference Center. Date Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. Time 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And the theme is leveraging technology to create inclusive and sustainable jobs. The organizers Institute of ICT Professionals Ghana, and AFOS Foundation. Supporters and exhibitors include German Development Corporation under the Invest for Jobs program, Jobberman, Lene Services, MTN, GIZ, AHK, Netherlands Trust Fund, Admin Telecom, among others. Call or WhatsApp us on 0242 912 027 or 0201 233 215 for more information. The job fair is free and open to all, and that includes you. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I hope you've enjoyed the AM show this morning. Thank you so much for making the time. Up next, we serve you Joy News Desk. But maybe just before I run away, a happy birthday to my wife, Mrs. Beatrice Labi. It's from your husband, Mr. Labi. And again, happy birthday to Eugenia Nadede and Adiola Afolabi. I don't know whether that's not Abiola, of Mount Olivet Methodist Academy. It's from Albert Papo. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghana 4, I salute you. Have a wonderful day.